Good evening. This is the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of April 25th, 2019. If everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we start with that, Robert?
Oh, yeah.
We don't need him. I'm just going to do the attendance. Mr. Phil Nemisak.
Present.
Robert Klaski.
Present.
Jim Bonanno's here. Bill West.
Present.
And Mark Cunningham will not be here tonight. I'm just going to run through the applications on the agenda tonight so everyone knows and the order. The first one is the Mount Holyoke, Holy Mount Cemetery. The second is Burrata. The third is Water Street Subdivision. The next is 760 White Plains Road. The next is York Place, followed by Interlaken. 22 Hunter coming up in the rear. And then we've got California Road and Main Street is a preliminary hearing. So it took me long to say all that, so it's pretty obvious we have a lot going on tonight. So with all due respect, if I could ask the applicants to keep their presentations concise, accurate, but still clear, and we up here promise to do the same with our comments. So the first application, I think it's the first time we've seen this here, is application 1836, Holy Mount Cemetery.
It's not the first time we've seen it.
I'm sorry?
No, it's not.
It's
the
not
second.
the first time. Yeah.
It was not a public hearing previously, but
Okay.
they appeared before you for preliminary.
Right, I'm Joe Lazarchik from JPL Architects. I'm the architect on the project. So I'll just try to, bring you up to speed. Let me just.
Please do.
You can pull that microphone out and carry it with you if you want to be closer to the easel.
Let me get that around this way. Rob, could you grab those one?
Go.
Let me just, we were before the board earlier, and then we referred to the ZBA. We received our ZBA approval and also Architectural Review Board approval. Basically, this is for Holy Mount Cemetery. There's an existing building that footprint is here, and what we do is we propose to do an indoor and outdoor columbarium. Basically, this is the existing building. We went out in this direction and in this direction to house the outdoor columbarium, which is niches that are built against the wall, the stone wall, and this is an indoor columbarium, again, which is niches inside the location of the existing building. What else? When we came before you last, this was a concept of a building, same concept as this project. It was another church that was in upstate New York. And as you can see here, this is the the outdoor columbarium, which is a wall basically consisting of 4'10", and the niches were inside. The exterior of the wall, which is similar to this project, would be a stone veneer, which would be to the outside. Everything is kept internal. As you can see in this picture, the landscaping that we propose to do in this particular project is similar to the landscaping that we do along the base of the wall, and then we use trees and other items depending on the specific location of the project and what we have to do in terms of screening. And here's another example of the wall that we're proposing. Again, it's an exterior stone wall, 4'10", and then inside are all the niches that you can see from there. So from the outside, it's basically a stone wall that's anywhere from 4'10", 4 feet, 3'6", depending on the grade of the finish on the outside. So, now going back to the plan, I'll relate this to the model. This is the indoor niches. of the existing footprint of the existing building. And then you can see here, this is the perimeter 4'10" wall that runs around the proposed outdoor columbarium. Again, that wall is 4'10", and it's actually less on certain areas from the outside because the grade, it acts as a reverse retaining wall where the grade's higher on the outside than the inside. And then going back to the model, what we tried to show here is these are the existing trees that are around the property. All the ones that are dabbled with the green is the proposed landscaping. These are 14-foot trees that we have here. There's a number of stuff that's on the landscaping that shows the specific species. These 4 pins are the only 4 trees that we're removing from the site, and the landscape architect could speak to the quality of those trees that we're removing. That's a quick overall of where we've been. Now, there was a couple items that came up along the way. When we first came before the board, this was, I'm going to say 18 inches taller than the existing building. Along the way, we have lowered this back down to the existing building height that's there, so it's no longer going above that. We've added additional landscaping from some comments, various comments from the neighbors as we moved through the process. Actually, this whole screening was added, and we went back and did an updated survey to locate the trees and the sizes of the existing trees that are around the perimeter. So if there's any questions, I have the landscape architect and the civil engineer is also in attendance.
Can we just quickly let the landscape architect
Sure.
explain what he's doing there?
Yeah, that's Rob Sherwood, and
Good evening, Robert Sherwood, landscape architect. So where the columbarium is proposed to be in the niches, we're at the top of the slope here, on the top of this slope. We're not impacting the slope that's dropping down towards the 2 neighbors. What we've done with the landscaping is kind of give it a residential appeal and a look. So the deciduous trees we planted are a cherry tree. On the back side of the wall, I have some evergreens located to try to buffer the views with some other plantings at the base of the wall that would give you some flower and color, so it would be a little bit of an appeal throughout the year. Pretty simple, but yet elegant enough to give it some appeal.
So which on that are the ones that are going to be put, all of them?
Yeah, the green ones here that are located, we have are the trees that are being planted.
Okay. And they are no taller than the screen, I guess, or maybe a little bit taller? They appear to be a few feet taller than the...
The evergreens that I've located are about 7 feet tall and 6 feet tall.
That's what
And then the trees being planted were specified out at 3-inch caliper. So you could estimate that it being about 14 feet when planted, and then they're going to grow from there.
Okay.
The 4 trees I'd like to comment on that are being removed are Norway maples, which are pretty much a weed tree, and sporadic growth. Most of the growth is high for any buffering as well. So this will be lower.
Okay, thank you.
Can you tell me, we have a report here from Kellard Sessions, which is the review of the site plan, and I think it focuses on stormwater management. Have you had an opportunity to review the Kellard Sessions memorandum dated April 18, 2019? And if so, does that affect your planting plan at all?
Yeah, we did. First of all, Tim Allen's here from Bibbo Associates, who is the civil engineer. We have coordinated our plans, and I did adjust some of the landscaping from the plan that's you have reviewing to match his drainage plan and structures better. So on the plan that I show here, I did adjust some of those plantings so that they could not contradict with any underground piping.
Okay, and also, have you changed your planting plan at all in response to any of the comments made by the Architectural Review Board at the meeting earlier this month?
created a little bit more evergreen screening. I had to adjust the location of those in between some drainage structures. And on a plan that I can present tonight, I did add a few more deciduous shrub material that will get 10 to 12 feet at maturity to give a little bit more buffering. And that is being proposed, I guess, on the southern end of the columbine niches.
Is there any adjustment being made to the grade of the slope there?
And Tim can speak on this more, but no, everything's being built on the top side. There is going to be some adjustments with the top side. There is a pipe that runs down the back side of the wall. The only impact into the slope part is for some dry wells that are being installed, and then something that's called a level spreader. So if the dry wells overflow, the water gets dispersed out and amongst the trench.
Okay.
So, and that's in this small area here.
Okay. I think I certainly am going to want to hear from the civil engineer regarding the stormwater management, because it is an issue that was raised by, I believe, the adjacent neighbor, Mr. and Mrs. Leibowitz of 23 Lakeshore Drive, in a letter to this planning board, and Kellard Sessions in their April 18, 2019 memorandum also had concerns with some of the stormwater management. So unless anybody else has further questions for the landscape
No,
architect.
I think,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sure
Thank
thing.
you.
Tim, you want to address?
Good evening, Tim Allen of Bibbo Associates, representing the applicant. We're the civil engineers for the property. We are in receipt of Kellard Sessions' memo. As you can see on this plan here, the cemetery as a whole has a large drainage area to a point which actually is at this corner here. We started with Kellard Sessions in this process through the ZBA process, and now work through to their memo, as you see before you today. What we've done on this, to start with, when we first started with your board, we had drainage throughout the calabarium. It was going to be infiltrated throughout the calabarium. So all this throughout the calabarium is pervious pavers. They're proposed to be pervious. It's all been perked and tested, very permeable soils in the area. In addition to that, what we had added was a row of infiltrators off the calabarium to take that drainage from the calabarium. Originally, when we were back at this board, originally we had just the calabarium going to those infiltrators as basically a backup. What we've done in the interim, given the fact that we had some neighbors complaining of the whole hillside coming at their property, we've taken that drainage at the corner and routed that through our infiltration system. The Kellard Sessions memo, I talked to Joe Carmelli at Kellard Sessions this morning, and went through a few scenarios. Maybe there can be another infiltrated added, not necessary. I think what Joe's memo basically says is that, you know, we've met the code, can you do more? And the question is, can we do more? Yes, probably not necessary. The question is, it may cost another existing tree to do more outside the calabarium. So in terms of our response to Joe will be exactly the same, and it's the board's preference, but nonetheless, our drainage plan meets all of your codes for site plan, and can we do more? Possibly. I just don't want to introduce, he's recommending maybe use more area inside the calabarium for stormwater. I don't want to introduce more water into that area for obvious reasons. It's walled in, and basically what falls on that area goes directly into the ground. I don't want to introduce more water into that area from a design standpoint. Hope that's clear. But nonetheless, we've looked at it. We've talked to Joe. We're subject to that. Basically, it's the first comment on his memo that we can address very easily. He was very comfortable with it also this morning.
Thank you. So just to be clear to everyone, the stormwater management plan you put in place collects all the water from the pervious surfaces of the proposed construction of the building, correct?
Yes, to be infiltrated throughout the project.
Correct.
Both on the columbarium area directly as rain falls on it, and then secondary as an infiltration system on the bank. And get back to your question earlier about grading. Basically, the columbarium is mostly at grade throughout this area, maybe slight grade changes throughout the wall, and just some very minor grading to accommodate the infiltration system outside of the columbarium.
Correct. So in addition to that, I think you said there's a little bit of extra water you've sort of taken account for that flows in that direction?
I'm sorry, sir, what?
In addition to the water collected for the impervious surfaces, is your system picking up additional water?
It's picking up from this corner,
Right.
it's being infiltrated through this infiltration system.
So is the slope drainage such that water goes to the corner you just pointed to?
Correct.
It is. And that's an existing condition. It's always been like that.
Well, it comes to this corner, it's now coming here.
Correct. But there's nothing that you've done that has caused that to happen. It's actually
No,
something.
we're not creating new water, that's.
Right. So I'm pointing out that something that has seemed to be a little bit of a difficulty in the past, you guys are accommodating it by putting it into your infiltration system.
We're actually trying to correct some of the issues that the neighbors may have had in the past.
Right. That's what I'm pointing at. And you're thinking maybe, looking at Joe's letter, there might actually be a little bit more that he's asked you to do?
I'm sorry.
Speaking for our consultant's memo this
Yes.
morning, you said he's asked you to do more. What exactly can you think?
Well,
you can
what
do?
we were talking about is maybe adding one more leg of infiltration here, just to have more infiltration. Again, we meet the code of 50-year storm and all the other requirements, but that would probably require taking down another 18-inch tree on this portion, which we have no problem with. It's just a matter of, it's catch-22. We take down more trees, or we can always expand the drainage. But if it's not necessary, that's really the board's call, in the fact that we meet the code.
Well, and I also think that when Joe spoke to Mr. Allen this morning, Joe, as Mr. Allen had indicated, he was contemplating maybe making the retention area beneath the impervious pavers, increasing that capacity. But I think he wasn't aware of the potential problems that might cause with regard to the walls. So I think there is additional discussion to have with Joe.
Okay, just sort of,
Okay, I think I understand.
thank you. Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Allen. Any other questions? Okay. Nice. Oops. Drop.
Yeah, I know there's a comment, again, in the Keller Sessions report from Joe Tremelli. Item 2 basically says that the plan should illustrate the location of all storm system components to ensure no conflicts exist. And this was, he commented that the plan proposed the removal of 4 trees, and he just wanted to make sure that the plan reflected clearly the location of the storm system components. Has that been done, or will that be done?
That will be done. Between Rob's office and our office, we'll coordinate that.
All right. Yeah, in terms, I'm sorry, is Mr. Allen? Is that your last name? You've reviewed the balance of this report, and is there anything in here that you can't accommodate? Other than what we discussed, the trade-off with expanding the infiltration system would be at the expense of a tree. Other than that piece, can you accommodate the other recommendations here, or do you disagree with any of them to the point where?
We agree with
Yeah.
everything.
Okay.
We're fine. And as a matter of fact, I have a draft response ready for Joe to that letter, and he has actually reviewed it this morning. I just didn't want to put it in front of the board.
Yep.
at the last minute.
Fair enough. We have a very capable director of planning here in Margaret, who manages to shepherd these things through when we get close enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So then, this is a public hearing. So let's open the public hearing. Make a motion to open the public hearing on application 1836, Holy Mount Cemetery.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the public? Sure. Come on up. Yep. So please state your name and address when you come up to the
Oh, to the microphone.
Have someone that takes down the minutes.
Gotcha. John Jennings. I live right next door to this debacle, 9 Innisfree Place.
Tell me how you feel about it.
Yeah. They're bad neighbors now. I don't know how that you're going to let this go through. When I moved there, my house was a mess, whatever. They dump all their stuff over, and their fence fell down. I called the church a couple of times. Very, very bad response I got. I went over there. They never did anything. Didn't they get a grant? I don't. What's the whole point of this anyhow? Like, what is the point of this?
So we're not here to answer that question. We're here
Okay,
to look
so
at the
I'll move
application.
on. So then, if they can't maintain the property they have right now, right? The fence fell down, nobody did anything, so I had to go buy some trees and stuff like that. We had the police there a few times, people, going back and forth. They don't want to maintain the property they have now. So why are they allowed to move forward? It seems like they're going to be allowed to move forward. I was here last month also. It seems they're going to be allowed to move forward.
Well, listen, we're not going to remove a cemetery. You moved next to a cemetery. When you bought the house, the cemetery was there,
I'm
right?
not disputing that. I'm disputing that we're going to add about 2,000 of these things there. We're going to have all these people in there, all these new people visiting constantly. So if they can't maintain what they have now, how are they going to maintain new stuff?
One of the suggestions was, and I believe this was how it was described, is
Where's
that...
the representative from the church
Yeah,
now?
could I just-
I can see Father Sorgi right there.
Yeah,
and
Phil,
I see
Phil?
other...
I'm
I
sorry
hope
to
he
interrupt.
comments also.
I think maybe what we should do is do one of two things. Either, I know that the representatives from the church are aware of what the concerns were raised at other issues.
Okay.
We could either have them address those up front now, or I think we can listen to the comments. I think it's better that the board not respond, but maybe have the church
I think
respond.
the way it works is people come and they state their concerns.
Yeah.
We listen, and then we move on from there. We don't engage in a discussion or conversation. We listen to your concerns, and they're valid, and we've heard them. So this is the opportunity for you to tell us all your concerns, and then we'll move forward.
But I think there are representatives from the church here that can
They will.
perhaps respond, yes.
Yeah, I think that's...
That's fine. Mr. Nemechek, just to answer your question, I'm fully aware of where I moved, when I moved, and everything else. But what I did with my property since I moved there and what they've done and let it get a lot worse is grossly unfair. So if you moved next door to somebody and they were throwing their stuff onto your property and the fence fell down and they wouldn't fix it and they won't respond, I don't think you'd be too happy either with that kind of response.
You're probably right.
So
I think one of the, maybe, I am privy to the full application, and I believe it's been, it's certainly been a matter of public record that part of the reasoning behind the introduction of the columbarium is to, address the needs of the community in terms of burials, but also to bring an infusion of revenue so that the upkeep can be upkept and upgraded.
But they just got $1 million, I believe, last year in some grant. They don't.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know
so
that.
let's continue, okay? We got the housekeeping, we understand those concerns. Are there others?
The traffic concerns. They're going to bring 2,000. It's going to be. I understand where I moved. I'm fully aware of that. But to expand it with all these new burial, it's like it's an incredible amount of increase in people that's going to go in there, and that's not what I was expecting when I moved there.
Okay.
Does
Anything
that
else? No, I mean,
does that make sense?
we hear your concern. I don't know, I understand the concern.
We understand
gonna
the
try and-
concern.
Okay, I really hope that you don't let this go
So,
forward.
anything else?
No, thank you.
Forth? You're welcome. Lady?
Sorry. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Leibowitz, and we wrote the letter to you, and I would just like to thank you for reading the letter, and
It was
thank our
long. It
neighbors
was 4
for coming.
pages, single space.
What?
4 pages, single space. Took a long time.
Thanks for reading it, and thank our neighbors for coming out, and the parishioners as well, because we'd like you to hear our concerns. I'm just going to recap. Traffic, Father Sorgi said according to him there was pent-up demand, so we do expect to actually see more traffic. And despite what he said about maybe 2 or 3 people coming when there is an interment of the cremains, I think there will be much more. We've seen it from our experience. And then water runoff. I'm curious about how much water the dry wells hold. That hasn't been discussed. And I'd like to say something on behalf of the trees, because the trees, unbeknownst to us, are actively taking water out of the soil, running it up their trunks and putting it out through their leaves. They have stomata on their leaves and they release the water. So one large tree can release 100 gallons of water a day into the atmosphere. So in essence, they're wicking out the water from the ground. And 100 gallons is a lot of water. We're going to be taking out these 4 large trees that would be constantly wicking out water, and instead we're putting in dry wells which do not wick out water. They just wait for it to permeate. And it's going to have a huge effect. I took pictures in October when we heard this was happening. This is a picture of the green that's going to be taken out to put in the columbarium.
Ma'am, if you
Want me to
could
put it there?
clip that on there so the camera can pick it up?
If you look at the fence line, you'll see that everything on the other side of that fence line is green, and that's where the columbarium is going to go. So all of that vegetation is going to be taken out. So all of that vegetation that's currently evaporating water into the atmosphere is not going to be there. So the landscaping plan might look nice, but it doesn't hold water. And the 3-inch Yoshino cherry trees, just a note, they have about a 15 to 20-year lifespan. So what happens after that? I mean, we're putting 7 of them in. They're going to be really beautiful for about 2 weeks in the spring. But I don't know if they're going to last that long. So that's something that should be considered. I'd also like to talk about the view of the building. We can see the building from our bedroom windows. And we would prefer if they could lower the building by 12 to 18 inches so that we don't have to see it, the community members don't have to see it. That would be much better. It's going to be a different colored material. It's going to be more evident than it is today because it'll be made out of different materials and a different color and shape. So we're hoping that that could be done. And if it involves less income because they have to get rid of some niches, then we have to bear in mind the fact that all of us taxpayers, when the tax law changed, the federal tax law changed, we lost our deductions for state and local income taxes. Our tax bill went up. We had to readjust financially, so if it turns out that the Holy Mount Cemetery has to readjust financially in order to accommodate the neighbors, I think they should take that into consideration. We sadly have a history of unresponsiveness with the cemetery. We had a situation where, this is before I married my husband, but he was there in the house with his ex-wife, and there was a dry well that was just above our house. And the cemetery would put the snow in it every year, and then in the springtime, it would melt, and it would run down the back of our lawn and nearly entered the den. And despite letters and phone calls, there was no response from the cemetery. It was just silent. So we're concerned about them being good neighbors because we don't have a good history. If you give them this variance and you approve of this, and then we end up with water running down our hill, that becomes our problem. So we really don't want that to happen. There is a variation of about 20 to 30 feet from Holy Mount Cemetery down to the houses and down to the street. So all of the neighbors on that lower part are basically downhill, and we know that water flows downhill. The other concern is unsightliness of the cemetery. We have signs up on our wall for no dumping, and they're there for a reason, because sadly they have not kept it up very well. They used to dump a lot on the property, and we had to build a big fence to keep it out. I would suggest you make a requirement that they commit funds for the upkeep. I mean, obviously, none of us were here 100 years ago when they sold the plots, and they committed to keeping the cemetery in good shape. But we are here today. So what commitment will be made by the cemetery going forward that that upkeep will be ongoing so that we don't end up in this situation? They gave us a 20-year plan, but some of us will live longer than that. And the plan needs to specify how they will continue that upkeep for years beyond. And those are my concerns. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to address something that was raised by the last member of the community, especially for those who are watching at home. One of the comments was that, I guess, a request that the variance not be granted. This application is not before this board for a variance. It was previously before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a use and an area variance, and those were granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. The matter is before this body for site plan approval. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that for anybody who might be watching at home. They're different issues. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments from the public? Yeah, you're going to get your chance. I just want to make sure that there's no other comments from the general public.
Okay.
You're the applicant, so please. They could be good comments if you have them, right? They don't have to be bad. If someone wants to say something good, it's certainly welcome.
Good evening. I'm Emmanuel Tirico. I live at 31 Hewitt Avenue, not near the site, but in the neighborhood. I am the president of the Finance Council for the church. And I guess I just wanted to make two comments because it was raised about the financial situation. Is the cemetery is well over 100 years old. And I don't know how else to say it, it's a dead cemetery. Most of the whatever revenues were raised go back years and years, and it's been a drain on the parish to try to keep the property up to a level that it is today. And we've been really looking at ways that we could generate revenue and beautify and make the cemetery that much better. I can't address the water issues and everything else that came up, but that would be the plan, and part of the plan is clearly to raise the funds so we can do a number of the things here, really fix some of the issues around the property. I think some of the things that have been said have been exaggerated and overstated, but clearly it's been an area where we've invested.
Excuse me, sir.
Sir.
Sir,
Just let the gentleman finish.
he has the floor.
Over the last, since our new pastors came in, over the last 4 years, there's been a number of maintenances to maintain the property, keep the property upkept and clean. And this is the next phase of that, to try to move this forward from that point of view. So we've really tried to put something together that will make this much more of a pleasing sight for the neighbors as they come up there, and at the same time have a financially responsible plan that could go on, that we can support this cemetery into the foreseeable future. We've gone out 20 years, but clearly there will be funds there to continue that as we go forward. So there seems to be a demand for the niches to be built, and we think we have a plan to support it financially from that point of view.
So just for my edification, so you said there's a plan in place to maintain beyond 20 years. Like, from a bookkeeping point of view, how is that done? Money's put aside,
So
as interest earning?
yeah, I guess there's again, and a major concern will be how fast you're able to sell the number of niches. The project itself is about $1 million project. to do everything that we're talking about here.
That's for construction, you're saying?
Construction of the site and the planting of the trees and everything that's been laid out.
Okay.
And that's a round ballpark number at this point that we're going to finalize. The 1,600 niches with a potential of somewhere between 2,500 to 4,500, depending on the location for the niches. If you sold it all, it's clearly going to generate well over $3 million. And we believe, again, that'll be over a period of time. To sell the niches, we're projecting it's going to take between 6 to 10 years, depending how that would go. So clearly, we have the financial support to raise the money to have the $1 million within the parish to support the building of that. And then as we go forward, the funds that would come in for building the niches would be there. And there's a perpetual care that exists today that throws off revenue today of a little bit over $55,000. As that gets added to it, that should more than double over the next 5 years, as a portion of the funds raised go into perpetual care that stay there, generate 4 to 5% interest a year to support the maintenance from here, plus the funds that would come in from the building. So we feel we are building something that'll be revenue generating and would allow us to really support the property in a much more efficient way as we go forward.
Okay. That's, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Okay, so now, if the applicant would come up and address some of the issues that were brought forth by the general public. I'm sure you heard them, but I'll just write them down too. They're concerned about the general upkeep of the cemetery, as we hear, about the fencing and about traffic, and I don't think you really could address water runoff because our consultant's doing that, and landscaping. But if you could just let us know what you think about the upkeep of the...
Sure. Well, first of all, my name is Father Sorgi, and in one sense, I'm the applicant, and in another sense, 3,000 families are the applicant. I'm the custodian. That's what the pastor is. I don't want to go back over everything we did at the last other architectural review board and the zoning board, and because I know how big your agenda is, I'm not going to take you all the way back, except to tell you a couple of little things. In 1997, there was a presentation before the board to do something because it was recognized that some of the things that were said tonight, some of them, could no longer be taken care of. The cemetery goes back to the Civil War, and it was next to impossible for the parish, with a Catholic school, a cemetery, the parish, Assumption in Tuckahoe, all to be placed, that person at that time outlined 10 things that made him wish to build, at that time, a mausoleum, because columbaria were just beginning. 1997. Here we are, 22 years later, in a sense fulfilling what was seen then as the problem, and then for 22 years, we had various amounts of success. He said, 15 years ago, we sold the last grave, 1982. So when Mr. Chirico uses the expression a dead cemetery, it is a finished cemetery, meaning there is no more perpetual care. What comes in, the little bits that families could give to the upkeep, and there's no more revenue. I watched, when I looked backward, I'm only here 3.5 years, I saw no longer a maintenance person assigned full-time, which was in the 70s and the 80s. I watched everything become stretched and stretched. I said, why is this? I looked back and found that 2 of my predecessors attempted to do what we are here doing tonight, God willing, which is to create the scenario to beautify a 130-year-old cemetery that carries the remains of our beloved deceased, the our being all over Westchester. And what could I do? I went back to their plans. I see we're in a modern era. The modern era is choosing cremation over full body burial. So we went to this plan. I had success with it. I'm watching what's going on in cemeteries like Mount Hope, Holy Sepulchre, Gate of Heaven, St. Raymond's. Did a study. This was going to be the way to assist us. to beautify the place that holds all of our loved ones already, but give new space and the finances, hopefully, as Manny said, I don't want to repeat that, to do it. I cannot speak. I am a resident now for 3.5 years. I cannot speak to 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I am in an office where I listen to Mrs. Maria Howes, the secretary of that Holy Mount Cemetery, answer with respect every phone call that comes in about anything. From the planting of a flower to a grave that has shifted by an act of God, I watch an attempt to care. She is the only secretary of the parish, which is 3,000 families. So you see what I'm saying? The way that we're going to do this, the cemetery is not going anywhere. It existed before, but how are we going to care for it? I believe this is the way that we will care for it now, and with respect to our neighbors, respect to the concerns that were leveled, especially all of those that had to do with the environment. We're going to do, no one's going to say it's impossible, so we'll do it, and with respect to them. I was left to understand, but one of my colleagues will have to answer this question. We don't have fencing. We never put fencing up. Fencing broken, fencing up, fencing excellent, fencing of Lake Isle, that was all done by my neighbors. We don't put, we were here before, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean we can't, but that's something that I heard that is certainly not the case. They could speak to it better than I can. We want to do the best. I can't tell you the exact number. There are 5,000 graves. I don't know how many are already buried of the 5,000 graves with 2 and 3 persons being able to. But I know that there are many left. And there are many family members that over these 27 years or 22 years have asked, can we do anything? Could we buy back property? Could we do this? I think in the modern era, where cremation is now creeping toward 50, 60%, that this is one of the ways. We can't expand the way we are. So we promise, as we're doing, I have a landscaper that persons could meet there every week. Now, I don't want to speak about what my immediate predecessor or the person before that did or did not do. I can only speak about now. I have a landscaper that goes up weekly. My maintenance men, which are only 3, and pulled in every direction on 3 campuses, 14.5 acres with 11 buildings. That's my problem, not yours, but just so that you know that. And the cemetery is one of those campuses. So when we can generate it, I will put proper personnel to assist in the care now, as well as the outside care. I have engaged wonderful planners, architect, engineer. I trust them. We have met for 2 years. We come to this with an immense amount of time. My parishioners, certainly, and those at Holy Mount, who have an investment in Holy Mount, meaning their loved ones are there, back to great-grandfathers, know about it and will answer anything about it. Here we are.
Okay, thank you. So listening to the concerns of the public and the direct neighbors, I can understand how they're appalled with the results they've got trying to contact the church in the past. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, I felt it immediately.
Yeah, so, but
I
it
have
has
to see it.
But it has been 3 years, and I'm not quite sure if their concerns are within those 3 years. I certainly hope they don't, because as long as you're there, I listen to you every Sunday. I think if you were to be getting those calls, you would certainly respond to them quickly. So I have
Short
to
of moving
trust
trees
you
that
with that.
nature makes fall.
But to build on the chairman's comments, I know I am also a parishioner and a parishioner of Immaculate Conception for many, many years before you came, Father Sorgi. And my experience will be that you will not be at the parish forever. There will, we're talking about a 20-year plan. It's unlikely the way that the Archdiocese works that you'll be here 20 years from now in our parish. What assurances do we have? Can we give the neighbors that that there will be a plan in place, and hopefully the revenue will be there? So how will there be an allocation made
You underst-
with assurances that money, some of that money will be, a healthy portion of that money will be allocated towards making sure that the upkeep of the cemetery.
Rule of thumb, 25% of every dollar on the sale of a niche is kept in perpetual care. Two kinds: care that can be spent to actually care, and care that can never be touched, restricted against acts of God, God forbid, serious earthquake, flooding, that kind of thing, always there, and generating. So that 25% right away is in there. That's the law of all cemeteries. Remember, of course, as I began, I'm the custodian. That's all I am, the pastor. I'm given responsibility for it, but I have people above me, including the trustees of St. Patrick's Cathedral, who run all the cemeteries of the Archdiocese of New York. So you talk about guarantee, you're talking about the same guarantees that can be given when you talk about all 71 cemeteries of the Archdiocese of New York, not one, on 4 acres in Eastchester.
May I interrupt? So at what level does the budget get cut? The parish level, the archdiocese, the Vatican? Where in that
budget?
do they shrink your budget so that your landscapers are dumping stuff on people's yards?
That's local, if it's such a thing, if there's such a thing.
So I guess the question, and I'm still not quite sure, in the budget you have right now for the campuses, is there a line item that is included for maintenance of the cemetery?
A very small one, yes,
Yeah, that's distressing.
at this moment.
Yeah, that's distressing. I mean, it's sort of, that it's gone into disrepair.
But I
and it
had
hasn't been.
inherited, and I've increased it, nothing but increased it. And now, hopefully, we'll be able to do it.
So now,
Sir, I'm going to ask you to please keep your comments to yourself.
we're trying to get your questions answered. So now, so you said a quarter of the sales is put forth for immediate maintenance,
Perpetual care.
perpetual care. So, yeah, could you explain that a little bit clearer?
So,
I just want to understand how much is going to
for
be
each-
available going forward.
so like I said, cemetery's 100 years old, the money has been more or less gone. But what would happen with this money, 25% of every sale goes into a perpetual care. 50% of that is used to maintain the property constantly, whatever needs to be done, and 50 is a corpus. It's there, and that principal amount has to stay there, and you could you live off the interest. So there's $1 million there in total. $500,000 sits in one place, and 5% interest, $25,000 a year to support the upkeep. Plus, there's that $500,000 that should be there each year, also gaining interest, but being there. Today, we spend between $55,000 to $75,000 a year maintaining that cemetery, and it's a stretch. With this added funds, we'd be able to at least double that each year, and that should take tremendous stress off of what's gone on before. Now, or from our opinion, at the $75,000 level, $70,000 level that we're spending now, we feel the cemetery is being maintained at an appropriate level today. Again, to speak what happened 8 or 10 or 15 years ago, I can't address that. I've not been involved with the finances that long, but it's clearly being addressed today, and that's the plan, and we're trying to build something that will maintain that as it goes forward to give us the financial strength to continue to support it for the next 100 years. And the 25% is not an option. The 25% is archdiocesan required and has to be done this way. So there's no leeway on our part at this point.
So that money that's put aside can't
Yes.
be taken and put forth to any other use, is that correct?
Every time, if there was an issue or whatever, you make a request to the archdiocese, and where we've had that for capital or to buy a truck just this last year, that money is released. Where the interest immediately comes back to the parish that I spoke of. So that's there to support the maintenance as we go forward. So there's a formulaic process that you go through that should generate revenue to support the upkeep and the maintenance of the property.
But that's ultimately controlled by,
It's controlled by the parish.
Parish.
By the parish, the local amount. the body, the dollars are invested by the Archdiocese and their professionals to generate the income for us.
Then you're saying perhaps you'd be almost double what you're spending now is what you have available.
After this is all done, which would be there'd be an upgrade immediately, it should at least be double from where we are.
Okay, that explains it, thank you.
Thank you.
Did we cover everything? We understand the fencing.
We are pre-selling. So, I mean, you're approving this, we're going forward, but we're not building tomorrow. If the demand is not there and we only sell 15 niches, we're not going forward. We don't expect that. But if we get the demand we expect, then the building would start. So we wouldn't go down the road of starting this project before we had visibility into where the demand was and where we were. So it's not like it's a hope and a prayer we're going to sell these niches. We're going to have to get a good reaction from the parish. We already have a waiting list of people that say they want to sign up, but now they have to sign up. So I think the due diligence has been done, and I think the procedures and controls are in place that we're not going to get out over our skis and build something before we know we have the finances to support it.
Okay. I think, do we address issues of traffic and the like? Is that?
No, not yet.
Yeah.
No, we're
I mean,
still
that's
playing around with
something-
this.
Okay.
So if you don't move forward, I'm sorry. So if you don't move forward on the application, I imagine the upkeep is still obviously whatever you have now. Is that enough to, because looking at the site photos, it seems like it's in disrepair right now. Is that enough to continue?
Which site photos are you looking at?
No, I mean, just looking at some of them. I guess that's mainly the fences, right?
I think those are views from adjacent properties, so that's not.
See all the brush and
Can I
stuff,
just say something quickly about the site maintenance? Because I'm getting a little bit confused about a couple of things.
Right.
And I think what the gentleman from 9 Innisfree said and what Mrs. Leibowitz said about workers potentially dumping something on their properties, that's obviously unacceptable, and a phone call should be made, and that can be dealt with immediately. In our department, in the Building and Planning Department, twice I received a complaint from somebody who was actually visiting a grave site from out of state and felt like the property, was not maintained to the extent that they felt that it should be. Not only did I send a code enforcement officer up there, I went up there personally. And in all honesty, it was clean. It was I couldn't find anything. I felt uncomfortable for this person that obviously felt that it should have been maintained to a higher standard. And I think some of the headstones maybe, I don't know how this is done, could have been cleaned a little bit differently or something. But so when people are talking about the site maintenance, other than the dumping things, which I understand is totally unacceptable, I'm not sure what we're talking about exactly. And the fences, we also received a complaint about a fence years ago, and determined that that actually was not owned by the cemetery. So we're hearing about the condition of fences, but apparently those are not owned by the cemetery. We're hearing about dumping, that can be addressed easily. So I'm not sure when you're talking about general site maintenance issues, what you're talking about, because I don't think anyone has articulated that.
Right, I think it's the concerns about the dumping and about the overall appearance of the fences, neither
Well,
of
I would
which
just
are-
say on the dumping, again, I can't speak to every instance, but the few that we're aware about, it was third parties coming in to the site and dumping stuff. It wasn't the parish dumping stuff that was refuse or whatever. And obviously, as things become aware of, we'll address those as we go
Okay,
forward.
understood. So then, to Mr. Nemisek's comment about traffic, I understand there's a concern, and I imagine you can walk us through what you think might be the operations of the.
I had done, one of the things about burials, of course, is we control the time. So if you have a day, which has been very rare, I said this to the zoning board, very rare that we have had multiple burials at Holy Mount on a single day, unlike places like Gate of Heaven, St. Raymond's, bigger cemeteries. In those rare occasions that we did, the funeral directors are coordinating who comes in and who goes out, and they have to wait. of course, a little bit to come in and out. It's not that everybody coming together. So we control the time for burials, whether they be a columbarium niche or a full-body burial. We can control that. You know, we're the ones who do the funerals, or we take the appointments and send somebody to do the burials. On days like Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, Palm Sunday, times that traditionally people would visit cemeteries or go. Of course, there's an increase. Veterans Day, our VFW goes up and puts the flags. There would be an increase. But that's when cars come on and cars come off. If I knew that there was going to be any kind of big ceremony, I would call immediately, I would call Chief Bonsi myself to get help to do that if there was anything like that. But I'm not aware of that many of those when they happen that way.
But on the map there, cars come off of California, turn in, and go all the way in, turn around and park.
Turn around and come back out.
So if they're attending something there, they're way off the road, right? And they
Yes,
pulled
sure,
in and they
sure.
parked, right?
That's a very long driveway.
Yeah, I'm
that
looking at the
town
the
owns.
map there, and it is very long.
Very long, two-sided.
Right, there's enough
Oh.
width for two cars, for a car to get by in both directions,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, and typically, I mean, in the largest extreme, how many people might attend a service that's there? You're saying
Very
it's-
hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
We've
like a
buried
burial.
children, and we're teenagers, which brings out half the high school that wants to go up. But our funeral directors control that. They bring with them 6, 7 men, whether it's Westchester or Bennett or McGrath or Yanatuono, who we use, those 4, they know how to do this. They do it. They care for the traffic, leaving cars out, walking them in, making sure elderly people. So in general, there's not a problem with that.
Are there services being conducted there in the past few weeks, months? I mean, people are
Have there
still
been
being
some
in-
services
yeah,
in the
have
last
there-
few weeks? Sure.
There have, okay.
Burials?
Yes.
Sure.
So it's not uncommon that it happens, and it's an occurrence that people have seen.
Oh, sure. Cars, sure.
Okay.
I would just make one point, most times when you're burying remains, ashes versus the full casket, most times, I'd say 60 to 70% of the times, the body is removed from the church, taken back to the cemetery to then be cremated. And at that point, what tends to happen is, unlike after a funeral mass where a number of people go to the service, when it's an interment, it's usually just the immediate family. So it's much smaller groups that come to intern the ashes into the cemetery, and it usually much smaller groups that come in. So I think just to take that into consideration, today it's all body burials and goes from off church directly to the cemetery, and it's.
So is the procedure where you're going to have a cremation, is it typically the casket is rolled up with the corpse in it?
Yes.
The funeral mass is
Yep.
held at that point, and then the cremation occurs after that? Is that the
Yes.
typical? Okay.
Typically.
Not-
You can
not-
take the other and delay. Sometimes that happens, and then the cremains are taken from the funeral mass home with persons. And a year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, when they buy the niche, there are people who are saying to me, we can't wait till it's built because now I can bring, this is not what I would recommend, but now I could bring my parents together to be placed in a niche. I've been waiting for some room in Holy Mount or.
Okay.
Thank you. I think we've addressed most of the issues. Regarding the height of the building, we've brought it down already, have we? or-
The applicant reduced the height from what was originally proposed so that it's exactly the same height as the existing building there now.
Okay.
And I think we, in terms of the stormwater management, I know that Mrs. Leibowitz commented on her preference for trees, and certainly I am a great lover of trees, but I'm also not an expert on stormwater management, and the experts seem to believe that a combination of you know, the retention systems and trees seem to work the best. Particularly, and we've been spared these past number of years, the really heavy storms that we had about 10 years ago, but with global warming and the like, I think we can probably expect more 50-year storms than we're accustomed to. But it does seem that the stormwater management issues are being addressed, and they're being addressed to the satisfaction of the consultant the impartial consultant working in conjunction, giving his recommendations to the applicant's consultant. So I think those issues have been addressed
So
to my satisfaction.
right, am I right to think there's still a few odds and ends to be picked up on the site plan between our consultant and the applicant?
Well, I think that really the major outstanding issues are just coming to a final resolution with regard to the final stormwater management plan and the final landscaping plan. And the applicant has been extremely responsive to the town's comments. And I think that the only potential issue is that it's kind of a tight space and kind of tricky. And we do want to ensure that my department doesn't receive phone calls after a rainstorm saying, you know, this is creating some kind of problem. So as the applicant indicated, I think our engineer is asking them to over-design it to an extent, just to be on the safe side. And then I think the only other area that there's a little bit of concern or confusion is with regard to the landscaping. What the landscape architect proposed seems very sufficient and adequate, but there is, if you look at Joe Tremelli's memo, he talks about removing undesirable or unhealthy trees and shrubs, woody debris, and tree and ground and vines. And I think there needs to be a little more discussion about how that's going to be done and how those slopes are going to be stabilized, and you know, what the result of that is going to be. And again, those are things that could be done as a condition of approval. And I think we're being overly cautious about both of these issues, just because we want to make sure they're addressed right up front. And I think the applicant is very aware of what we're wanting them to do. And I know Joe Tremelli is very aware of the issues. Joe and I actually did go out to both of the adjacent neighbors' properties and met with them and viewed the site from their perspective, and then we've been on the site together. So I really think those are the only two issues, and I think we're coming very close to a resolution on those.
I was just going to say, Mr. Allen said that he was, you know, he was in agreement and could accommodate the requests here. And I know from experience that your department has worked very well to get us to the finish line in situations where it's the smaller details that are left, but we've reached a consensus on how to move forward on the bigger pictures.
So I think those are the two outstanding issues, and then it's up to you whether you want to wait and hear back from our engineering consultant at the next meeting, or whether you just want to do what you have done sometimes in the past and issue a conditional approval. I don't know if you guys feel like you need to go back out to the site, or...
I think the concerns are enough that we should let the consultant revise the drawings based on our consultant's comments, let our Joe Tremelli take one last look at it, approve what's been done, and give us the final okay that what's been proposed is adequate. You know, I'd like to make sure it's correct. You're right, on most jobs we do the conditional, most projects or applications, we do a conditional, but I think there's enough that has to be resolved here.
Yeah, I think also the applicant indicated that this is not something that's going to move forward at a breakneck speed. You know, I think it seems to me that we're pretty close. And since we do have another meeting in just another, 4 weeks or so, that sounds like, once again, our chairman is taking the very prudent course.
Thank you. And of course, we'll probably go out and take a look again at the site. This remains an open public hearing, so of course, if you have a comment. Absolutely.
Can I do it from here?
I'm sorry, can you make it over there?
My name is Dorothy Shields, and I live on Oregon Avenue. I'd just like two clarifications. Is the columbarium to be open to just people at Immaculate Conception, or everybody in Westchester, or everybody in Eastchester? That's the first clarification. The second clarification is, it sounds like from Father Sorgi that the parish is responsible for this cemetery. However, above them is the Archdiocese of New York. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I would like the first clarification, I guess. Father Sorgi gave you the second.
It will be open.
To
Hold on,
everybody?
could you go on record here for
Throughout
that?
Westchester?
Yeah, but if you
Could you go on record to the responses to both? I think your second question is you just want to understand the interaction between the Archdiocese and the budget
Well,
for the
because
columbarium?
in my mind, that is more of a guarantee if the Archdiocese is above Immaculate Conception, in case it
Well,
disappears or
they,
closes or whatever.
but they both have the same concern. I mean, Father, and so let's,
It's a
So,
big backup.
yes,
Yes.
it is, the cemetery will be open to anyone. I doubt many people from, Duluth, Minnesota are going to be interested, but if they sent to me, and we would like to buy a niche because mom and dad are buried there, or any reason.
Okay.
They like the look of the columbarium, we want to come back to New York when we die, the answer would be yes. Sale, religion, creed, that whole business. And secondly, yes, everything in a parish is under the general umbrella of the Archdiocese of New York, but we are, we're the local,
So it's
the
not
local
like
people.
considered, well, Gator Heaven is so big, and Calvary and all that, but so even these little cemeteries?
Yeah, there are 69 of them, I think, left, parish cemeteries. We have some autonomy, but ultimately, it all reaches back. There are things called diocesan cemeteries. Gate of Heaven is one of them, but St. Raymond's, Holy Sepulchre in New Rochelle, I could keep going, St. Joseph's, Brewster.
okay, we got it.
You don't want all 69, but yeah, it is.
Is that a sufficient answer? Great, thank you.
We've heard the board's comments and the public's comments. From a procedural standpoint, we would ask that the board consider closing the public hearing tonight, since it was duly noted and not coming back for another public hearing. To hold this over, in our opinion, as I stated, I've known Joe Carmelli and Keller Engineering for half my lifetime. So, I mean, there's no reason why we can't work that out with them if you want to push this forward. It's just a question of what the board wants to do. But at a minimum, we would ask you to at least close the public hearing since the public's been heard.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
My suggestion, and this is obviously your call and the call of the board, but it seems to me that if you're going to be asking the applicant to bring additional information or to bring something else with the consultant based upon the amount of people that are here, the concerns that were raised, my advice would be to keep the public hearing open.
Thank you for your advice. I appreciate it. And I agree. Yes, I think we're going to do that.
I do
Yeah,
too. I think we've had a robust discussion, and I
My point is
understand.
that the plans aren't going to change dramatically from point A to point B that
Yeah.
we're at right now.
But for the same reason, leaving it open isn't going to, there's only so much
Not gonna-
we're going to countenance. We don't want a complete do-over of this. We've heard what I believe to be a representative sampling of concerns from the community, particularly the immediate neighbors. And if someone wants to respond to the new information, certainly they should have the opportunity to do so. And I can't guarantee that we're going to keep it that tight, but we're not going to have, the Jets are probably already on the clock right now, and we're still on our first application tonight.
Yes.
We're not intending on having a complete do-over next month.
Fair
So-
enough.
It's going to be
Understood.
quick next time around.
I had to try.
Yeah, I understand.
So,
I have two things that I'd like to see in coming back is one, what the area is that you're collecting the water. Sure. It all comes to that point.
Actually, that's in one of our.
Just the contour of the slopes, or is there some drainage along the roadway? I'd just like to see how that was determined, and then Obviously, that came into your calculation, into your dry well.
Correct.
And the second thing that I heard was, does anyone feel that the selection of the cherry trees should be reconsidered to something that is not if Ms. Leibowitz is correct, that will last more than 15 or 20 years?
I think that you might want to, defer some of that to the, Keller Sessions also has licensed landscape architects that are coordinating with the applicant's landscape architects, so maybe that's something we can discuss.
Right, I'm just speaking to the applicant's representative, and I'm not trying to steer it one way or the other. I'm just asking a question that, repeating a question that was asked by the public.
Okay, so we asked the applicant to look into that also.
I think that's fair.
Good. That being said, I think we've hit on everything. The public hearing is going to remain open, and we look forward to seeing you gentlemen next
That
month.
next meeting date is, just so I can get
Sure.
timing and everything,
The next meeting date is May 23rd.
May 23rd? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're
4
welcome.
weeks from today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is 1910 Urata Wood Fire Pizza.
To this one. All right. Let's-
That would be a big significant cost.
Well, it depends what they're maintained. Do I get
It's
Do you think
nice
the
when-
ones that Japan gave us in the 1930s, that Washington DC,
Sort of tedious. but-
they're 90 years old?
Morgan, the fence was put up by
That was an
two
interesting comment
two
about
residents before the house.
Okay, Bill, my hat.
I guess the word is aspiration.
I was just going
All right, you have to make up for lost time, all right?
to say.
Not even-
It should be easy.
Shall I proceed? I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll just vote on it right now. It looks really good. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members. My name is Chaz Anderson, and I'm the chef owner of Barada Restaurant at 425 White Plains Road. I would like to thank all of you for this opportunity in presenting this evening. As you may know, Barada is currently expanding into the adjacent space, which was formerly a hair salon. After meeting with the Architectural Review Board on April 4th and having their approval, I am now before all of you in requesting for your approval to make facade improvements to the existing and expanded restaurant. The proposed facade will consist of new stucco, consisting of limestone aggregate, a cast stone water table to match the color of Indiana limestone, new and improved windows and doors manufactured by Marvin, made of metal in the color of ebony, detailed window trim and crown molding manufactured by AZIC, painted to complement the stucco and stone, a new sign, letters to be made out of satin brass. Sign lighting will be linear and horizontally mounted above the letters. Bavolo gas lanterns on each side of the main entry door made out of copper. And lastly, French-inspired planters to house boxwoods. However, that will be, from what I understand, a further conversation with the Highway Department with respect to being in the right-of-way.
So everything in that elevation is new, or you're taking out the windows and putting new ones in?
Yeah.
The existing and the new?
So the intent is it's all going to be new. So I'm going to remove what I currently have. The doors and windows that I currently have in place, I try to upkeep it as best as possible, but they're made out of wood, and they've seen better days. They're starting to rot a little bit, and some of the windows tend to leak. So that is what I had inherited 7 years ago when I took that space. Now I actually own the property, so I'm trying to invest within my property and do it the better way. So having the opportunity to tie in the new facade with my existing, my intent is to redo the facade to upgrade it to a better facade. And the idea not only to upgrade it to a better facade, but to enhance the appearance to a better looking facade.
So are we matching the existing colors? Is, what's it called, Indiana limestone?
Yes.
Oh, you bought samples? There you go.
This is a rendering of...
Actually, the light is better over there.
Sorry, so this is a sample rendering of the plaster. It's actually a product coming over from Italy, the way they do stucco in the old world. This was an exact color match of Indiana limestone. I have a sample of that as well that I can show you and hold up next to it.
Can you somehow, will that stand on the easel? Because the lighting
Yes.
where you are just seems to be.
Yes.
I don't know if
You can unravel the mic and bring it around if you want.
Yeah, that's the color.
Yeah, there we go.
And what's the sample you have? You said you had a sample also? What's that?
Yes. It's a good match.
Very nice. Thank you. Planted that way, huh?
You knew the outcome before you displayed it.
I'm sorry?
You knew the outcome.
He knew it was the match.
John should look how he's doing that when he presents.
Yeah.
So this is a sample rendering of the
stucco, yeah.
true, what we call stucco, but this is true plaster, as the way they do it in the old world. It's not the synthetic material that is being used a lot of today with EFIS material. And this is going to be Indiana limestone, which is going to be underneath the windows, which I'm calling a water table or door threshold. This is an example of the letters. This is the color of the ebony windows and doors made out of metal.
Just what color is the sign's going to be the same color as the existing there? The
No,
lettering?
the sign is
So
going
is
to be
that-
made out of brass,
Yeah.
solid satin brass. And that is something that I'll go before the sign meeting.
Right, okay.
And then, Margaret, I remember from last meeting that the square footage and parking and traffic is all kind of, so how many tables are you going to put in this new thing?
Yeah, actually, the parking requirements for, he's not required to provide any parking, and we don't limit the number of tables either. It's based on the gross floor area of the building, so it's grandfathered with regard to parking.
Gotcha. And we already approved of the
Yeah, you already,
expansion,
you already
yeah.
approved the special permit for the restaurant,
That's right.
so he's just coming back for
Yeah,
the facade.
and I remember at the time, it wasn't that long, it was, I guess, November 29th, right after Thanksgiving, and I remember we very much encouraged you to use this opportunity to bring unity to the frontage.
Correct.
And I will say, I was watching as I'm wont to do as a very intense member of the town of Eastchester community, I was watching the ARB presentation a few weeks ago, and I have to say, I saw you come up and make this presentation. I'm like, this looks spectacular.
Thank you.
It's a vast improvement over, and I know this is an investment too.
Yes.
And I love your restaurant.
Thank you.
I hope this is an indication that you're doing well enough that you're intending on staying a while. But I think this is a really nice, a really significant upgrade. I see you've put a lot of care into it. I really applaud the effort.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Pulaski, any comments?
I support Phil's comments. There's absolutely nothing to add to them.
All right, so,
We have a bigger viewing audience, a much more substantial viewing audience than the ARB, though, so.
so, yes, we all like it. Let's just see if there's any comments from the public, so just stand by. you don't literally need to stand by, just, so I make a motion to open this open the public hearing to this application 1910 Burrata Wood-Fired Pizza.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments? Close. Motion to close the public hearing on the same application, 1910 425 White Plains Road.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we've given you enough praise. When's, you guys are gonna start soon, or what's the?
Well, now, if I have your blessing, I'm going to submit this to the building department, and I'm in the middle of construction for the expansion as we speak.
And you have to get the artisans that work in the old country.
Say that one more time?
You'll have to get the artisans that work in the old country, okay?
Yes, yes.
So then I make a motion to approve this application, 1910 425 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
Nice job.
Thank you very much.
The next application is 1912
Oh, looks
22 and 24 Water Street.
glad we have it. Moving on to lawyer. He asked a question. Courtroom, he's got to know the answer.
Yes.
Good evening, Steve Anderson from Gabriel Senior Land Surveyor and Engineers. And we're asking tonight for reapprove or an extension of the approval that we just got Health Department to sign the Mylar, so on the 18th. So it's been in the process of going through the consulting engineer, the DPW, and Suez, and the Health Department. So we finally have worked out all the utilities and for the proposed water main and the proposed sewer. And now we're ready to file with the county, so we do need an extension for that.
Okay. So this is literally just an extension of time.
Well, it's not really an extension because technically the zoning law doesn't allow for extensions
Okay.
to an extent. So, and
It's a resubmission of something that we, yeah.
It's a resubmission. It's a new application, but technically they're asking for an extension. So, you know, unfortunately for the applicant, they had to submit a new application fee, and they have to, you guys are going to have to sort of adopt all the same kind of approvals and seeker findings and things that you did previously. But basically, as the applicant said, you know, I guess there were some holdups for a variety of reasons, but then it came down to getting the health department signature on the Mylar, and that was the one thing that was holding it up from allowing the chairperson to sign the Mylar. I believe they just got the signature a couple of days ago,
Yeah,
right?
the 18th.
On
Just
the
picked it up
18th,
yesterday.
okay. So at this point, it should be ready to go.
Yeah, it could go to the county as soon as the planning board signs it, and then we get the letters from title company and the tax assessor saying that all taxes are paid and everything.
And then the applicant also has to post a performance
Yes,
bond
the-
and pay a maintenance fee, and applicants always wait until, you know, for obvious reasons, until the very last minute to do that. They haven't been procrastinating on that, they just
Okay.
don't want to do that until that's
if-
absolutely
I thought the
necessary.
I thought the brief said that that we did have the bond money. It was just the.
No, what you did is you established the amount, it just hasn't been actually posted yet.
Right, we approve the amount of the
Says right.
the bond.
Oh, the
Oh,
performance.
So
the-
this, so Margaret, this goes back to zoning for the area
It was
variances?
Yes, oh yeah, that's another thing that I have to say. The area variance is also expired. So if you reapprove this, your approval will be subject to the condition that the zoning board grants the variances, which I think that process will be similar to this one. It's sort of just
Is
administrative.
it, if I could cut through everything here, are we being asked to do anything, other than the procedural, the procedural steps that we have to take? Are we being asked to do anything new that we haven't previously approved?
No.
Okay, that should make it easier, because the board is made up of the same constituents.
Yes,
same-
absolutely
yeah.
nothing has
Okay.
changed.
Okay,
Also go faster.
Yeah. So,
Is this a public hearing also?
yes,
yes,
yes.
because it's a new application.
So we have to do that, and then we can come back and talk
Yes,
about the approval. So let's just see if there's any comments from the public. So I make a motion to open the public hearing on this application, 1912, 22 and 24 Water Street.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments? No, good. So back to this. So now, we adopt the neg deck now before it goes to zoning, or?
Yes, you would, and because we can do this as an uncoordinated review, which means you'll adopt a neg deck and they'll adopt a neg deck.
Okay.
So, and I think what you'll technically be doing is adopting a neg deck, approving a preliminary subdivision plat, approving the final subdivision plat, subject to the conditions that are noted below, even though some of them have been satisfied. And I think that what you can basically say in doing that is that you're incorporating all of the findings you made in your previously approval and just readopting those.
Cool. And then we refer it to the zoning when we're
And then
done with
refer it to the zoning board. And the only thing, the only thing I'm a little concerned about is, again, the zoning law says for subdivision approval, you have 180 days. You're going to be delayed a couple of months just because of the zoning board approval. So even though although I said this a while back, but I think that you may want to say in your approval, allow another 6 months, even though I think it's not going to be nearly that long. But if you think about it again, you're going to refer them to the zoning board. The zoning board does not make a determination the month that they hear an application, so that'll be another month before they get that zoning board determination. So I just, to be on the safe side, I would say 6 months, otherwise just so that they don't come back in 3 months.
Okay.
Can it be 6 months following the approval of zoning?
Yeah, if you want to do it that way, you could do
So then you have the full
that.
180 days, which is what your intention is,
Yeah.
or what the intention is, rather.
So you can make that clear too, that the approval will be for, 6 months.
Period will start with the
With the approval of the zoning board. That makes it even cleaner.
zoning.
Good point. Okay, so let's do that. I'll try and put this all together into one,
Yeah.
into one motion. So,
Did we close the public hearing?
No.
no, but they're coming back, aren't they?
No, no, they're not going to come back to you.
Oh, that's right, once they're done.
with the
zoning, we're
zoning.
done.
Done,
Yep.
yeah, they'll just go
Okay,
to
so,
zoning.
thank you. So I make a motion to close the public hearing on this application,
Second.
19, 22, and 24 water.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so, I'll do this in bullet points. So I make a motion to adopt a negative declaration, coordinated secret review, number 1. Approve the preliminary subdivision plot, approve the final subdivision plot, subject to the conditions of stated below, which is, having to do with bonds, the amount, and the amount. And specify a time resolution for this, which will be 180 days following approval by ZBA.
And also, one of your conditions is that the approval is subject to the condition that the ZBA grant the variances.
Yes, I guess that's right. And so, as Margaret said, subject to the condition that the ZBA grants the area variances. So that's the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then I think I just have to refer you to the ZBA to get you there so that they grant the variances so you could finish this. So then I make a motion to refer application 1912, 22 and 24 water to the ZBA for review of the area variances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you're good to go.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. The next application is 1909, 760 White Plains Road, Keller Williams.
We did the negative, right?
Yes.
Didn't we have a problem with this cars parking in the driveway previously? Like, wasn't that a problem?
When you're saying they have pictures of it there?
Yeah. Wasn't that a problem?
I'm trying to remember.
What is that? Let me see.
These cars, wasn't that a problem?
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Oh, thank you, okay.
Thank you.
Five of them. Or 4 of them, sorry.
That's in the driveway between the two, right?
Yes. Wasn't this supposed to be kept open?
Okay, good evening. My name is John Yanacito. I'm an architect, and I'm representing Post Road Realty 5 LLC, the owners of the subject property. This project was approved by the planning board on November 30th, 2017, and we are back tonight because we are proposing changes to the previously approved facade alterations. Due to the high cost of construction bids, the owner has decided to make a couple of changes to help reduce the cost of construction. Here we have, I'll just go over the site plan again, just to refresh everyone's memory. This is the existing site plan, the existing structure, parking at the rear, and a driveway off the road. This is the proposed, the previously approved proposed site plan. Two-story addition at the front, parking at the rear, and the same driveway from White Plains Road. There will be no changes to the size of the addition, no changes to the use of the building, and no changes to the previously approved parking requirements. The only changes are to the facade. Here we have a rendering showing the previously approved facade and the new facade. So the proposed facade changes will include elimination of balconies and decks at the second and third floor. So previously you were able to walk out of the building and be in an outside space above the second and third floor. So we're reducing, we're going to eliminate those balconies and just have flat roofs in those locations. So you're not going to be able to walk out of the building at the upper levels. The second change was reconfiguration and relocation of windows and doors. So all the doors that were leading out to the balconies will be eliminated and changed to windows. And then the third change was to reduce the amount of stone on the front facade here, and we're only gonna have a stone base, and the rest of it will be stucco. So this was also on the exterior materials, everything stays exactly the same as the previously approved. So the wall surfaces will be a combination of stucco and stone. The roof surfaces will be flat with a membrane. The windows will be aluminum clad in a black finish. Trim boards will be painted AZAC in a black finish, and the railings will be aluminum in a black finish. The application was presented to the Architectural Review Board on April 4th, and they had three recommendations. So the first was to make the color of the stucco two different shades. The elevation that I presented to the Architectural Review Board was all one shade of gray. So the suggestion was to be closer to the existing, the original approval, and have a lighter shade at the front and a darker shade at the rear. So we went ahead and did that. The second recommendation was to reduce the size of the fascia boards on each level. The previous elevation that was presented to the Architectural Review Board had a fascia closer to this size on all levels, so we reduced that to a smaller scale. And the third was to bring back the additional windows on the third floor. Originally, we were reducing that to smaller windows, so we went back and put those windows. That's basically it, so happy to answer any questions you have.
I think they both look good. Yeah, I think they're both handsome. Other comments, guys?
With the parking in the rear, is there a part of the building that you've eliminated back there? You've eliminated the steps, right?
Yeah, we did eliminate the steps.
That's current or that's previous?
This is currently there now, because no construction hasn't started yet. So this is the way it is today. There's an entrance back here.
Right.
So now we're gonna have a new entrance here.
Right. So you are eliminating something that was between the wall and the back of the cars? There were some steps there.
Sidewalk here, so people can circulate.
Okay. But,
Right now, you'd have to kind of walk around this and walk out into the
okay, but my question is does it make sense to try to pull those cars a little bit closer to the wall and give you a little bit more
This
aisle
is only
space?
facade. This is facade, right?
Yeah, you guys have already approved that.
I hear you, but you come back and you eliminated a piece of facade, right?
We lowered the,
No, in the back.
No, nothing in the back. The only thing, it's only the facade for the
Okay,
front facade.
I was comparing drawings and it just
Yeah,
looked
the
that way.
size of the building is
Okay.
exactly the same as the previously.
That I understand. I thought that, in just comparing the drawings,
Yeah, I think the only thing by moving that curb, I mean, we would want to maintain at least 3 feet for people to circulate through there. So, you know, if we have to add an extra foot or 18 inches to the backup aisle, then we can always do that if we had to.
That parking and circulation was looked at exhaustively by both the planning and zoning board. So I think at this point, you're just proposing the facade, everything else was approved.
Except,
Except
except, I think during the approval, we talked about the parking and the drive aisle between the two
They're not
buildings.
supposed to be parking there, yeah.
They're not supposed to be
Someone
parking
needs
there.
to enforce that.
How does that happen? Yeah, I mean, Mr. West picked up on it immediately.
They keep parking there, yes.
Whose responsibility is to enforce that? I know it's not yours, but.
Maybe the fire department.
Well, I think, and this came up during the discussions, once it's constructed, it was a condition of the.
Approvals.
Of the site plan approval. I mean, this sounds ridiculous now. Like, my department doesn't have any authority to enforce that now because we have nothing to do with the, traffic circulation on site there. But because that was specifically a condition of the planning board approval, once they get their permit and do construction, then we can, and in fact, this was something that we had to explain to the applicant, that because it was a condition of site plan approval, that meant we would have authority to enforce it. Right now, I mean, until somebody pointed it out to me on the photographs, I, was not aware of it. I can talk to the police department, I can talk to the applicant, but I'm not quite sure how enforceable that
Start
is.
weaning themselves off of it now.
No,
Yeah,
Well, I
and
think the
currently,
faster-
when you go in the back there, the parking spaces are not striped.
I'm
It's not a
just telling
designated
you.
handicap spot. So when we do the project, we are gonna stripe it, we are gonna do a designated handicap space.
well, and also, did we change circulation with regard to that particular? I can't remember with
No, it's
regard to
still
the
two-way,
driveway.
'cause technically, that's the only way in and out of
So
the site.
it is still two-way,
I mean, they
okay.
have this pass-through in the back that's been there for many years, but anyone can put up a fence and say you can't cross over into my property tomorrow if they wanted to. So the entrance on White Plains Road is the only access to the back of this building.
Okay.
But right now, they go in there and then they cut through the bank or through the.
But you will have to remind the applicant that a condition of the original planning board approval
No
was
parking on
that
that
there not
driveway.
be any parking there and that be posted, and that because it was a condition of the planning board approval, we will have authority to enforce that.
Enforce it, okay.
Mr. Yanacito, just out of curiosity, I know this was discussed before the zoning board exhaustively, but is there an easement, or is it just kind of like a practice that's been going on?
Yeah,
Just-
the only easement that exists is this dotted easement right here, and it's basically just enough for backing up and out. This is the only easement that exists. But right now, everyone is able to drive right through here.
Okay.
But if they put a fence here, the bank would not be able to put a fence on the easement, but they could fence around it.
We did the public hearing, right, guys?
Do we have to do a public hearing?
I don't think so, I didn't write it down.
Okay, good, that's why I'm asking. So I make a motion to open the public hearing on this application, 1909 Keller Williams Realty Group.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's someone here, I think.
Yeah, please, come forth.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nick Cameloni. I resided at 774 Post Road, which is the corner behind the lighting store. Been there 77 and a half years. And I see one minor problem and I see one major problem. The minor problem is, my building, I don't have an elevator. And so I'm really having a tough time trying to rent the upstairs. Elevators, I think, should become part of planning in our town in this modern age. There's many handicapped people, and it's a critical issue, I think. So it's great that they're building. I think it's a 3-story building, right? So it's kind of difficult to get somebody up on a 3rd floor, depending on them. I had several people look at them, whether it's a weight problem or a leg problem or a physical problem. You need an elevator. My second problem is the parking problem. They were given a variance, or they built a wall on Reynolds Place. There was a no parking sign on Reynolds Place, and there's still one now at the bank corner. The other sign was taken out, and it was reversed, so nobody could see it. Then they built the wall, they put blacktop down and took the sign and threw it away. I have photographs of that. The next one is, that's a critical issue when you guys say, how do you get down? I mean, I backed my car out. Sometimes you can't even get your car out. I have a little driveway there that I park. You can't even back out. There's people coming out of the bank, and I know there's a problem. They sneak across the street and park over in Acme's space. They park over in Lord & Taylor's. The only problem is I'm sure there's going to be more people there, so to accommodate more people, you have to have more cars. If they can, I have no problem with anybody expanding, but if they're going to do that, the requirements should be met. Where are you going to put the cars? And that's my issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I can respond to some of those if I.
Sure, why don't you?
So the property on Reynolds is a different property. He's not supposed to be parking in the street. I'm not sure if it's owned by the same person. So he shouldn't be parking out in the street, and I think that's probably something that he has to deal with the highway department on. Because one of the conditions was that he had to eliminate that parking space out there. So, and I just don't think he got his final inspections yet, and that's probably why he's still parking out there. The building will have an elevator. Yeah, so we're putting an elevator in. What was the third one? Oh, the parking. We've talked about the parking here. This project started about 4 or 5 years ago. It was much larger, and we've reduced it down to where there actually was a net increase of 0 parking spaces between what we're proposing and what's existing as far as the square footage of the building. So we understand that the parking is a problem there, and we did address it by reducing the scope of work on this building many times.
Correct, thank you. So we appreciate the comments about parking, but the application that's in front of us right now is really just about the facade. That was all addressed quite a while ago. So that being said, I make a motion to close the public hearing on application 1909, 760 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I have no more comments, and the faster we approve this, the faster we get those people from parking in the middle there. So I make a motion to approve this application 1909 Keller Williams Realty, 760 White Plains Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Yanacito.
Thank you.
Oh, really? Oh, that's funny. The next application is 1905 2 York Place.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo Bettino. This is going to be my wife and my home. It's a new single-family construction, and it's at 2 York Place. This is now a vacant lot, and we've been in the community for living not too far away, maybe a quarter-mile away from this lot for 22 years, raised our 3 kids, and now we wanted to move out of Bronxville, move into Eastchester, and I got very lucky when we found a vacant lot. Couldn't believe my luck. Found this beautiful, wonderful flat lot at 2 York. And we, as I said, my kids are now gone. They're in college, and so my wife and I wanted to stay in the community. We want to stay here. We want to be here. And so we bought the lot, and we wanted to build something that was very much in keeping with the rest of the community, the homes around it. The objective was to be very understated, to be very traditional, very classic, with a couple of little modern touches, but again, very much in harmony with the other homes in the vicinity. So this is Lou DeMasi's, who's the architect here. His design, he did a great job, I thought. The color scheme is white and black trim, white AZEK. The siding is hardy plank siding, Arctic white, and the it's GAF HD roofing, a slate gray, and anyway, I thought that we think it looks very nice. These are the elevations for the left and right side of the home. And the rear elevation. And I have the layout, but I'm not sure you want to see that.
Sure. You're doing such a good job. Just run us through the
Okay.
layout.
This is the first floor layout, two-car garage with carriage-style doors. And so it's a very open layout, kitchen and family room, small fireplace and a study, but nice open kind of layout for when the kids come home. And then second floor where the bedrooms are, 4 bedrooms. As I said, we have 3 kids, so we can accommodate them if and when they show up. And so, I believe it meets all the size requirements.
Sure.
I should say, Dan Sherman did the work on the the site plan for landscaping, and the ARB had some nice things to say about that. And I think he did a great job as well. They really liked it. One point that I'd like to mention that was asked about at the ARB. Where is that? Oh, first floor. They wanted to know where the condensers were going to be. And they're going to be here. And they wanted to know what we were going to do about screening. And we had actually anticipated that on this side, there are skip laurels 4 to 5 feet high that will totally screen that entire side to Josh's, our neighbor's house. Mike Stein is here from Hudson Engineering, and he'll take you through the site plan.
Great. We'll speak to him. Thank you.
Good evening. Michael Stein, President of Hudson Engineering. We're the engineers of record for the project. Just to briefly go over the stormwater management plan, I know we received a copy of a memo from Colored Sessions this morning. We had gone through and let me first kind of go over the stormwater management plan, and then I'll address anything with Colored Sessions memo. So we did an impervious calculation for the new house, driveway, walkways. We provided a stormwater management system on site to fully infiltrate all the stormwater that's collected for up to the 50-year storm per the town's code. Prior to doing the design, we actually went out and did percolation and deep hole testing to confirm depth to groundwater, depth to ledge rock, and to confirm the rate at which the soils absorb the water. So that's that's the basis of what the stormwater management design is on. The landscape architect's plan, I know from reading through Colored Sessions' memo, there's I guess a couple trees on our plan that weren't reflected to be removed per the landscape architect's plan. But overall, the comments through Keller Sessions' memo are all, everything is addressable without issue. We've worked with our office for many years.
Okay. But the memo we got from Kellen Sessions, which I can't seem to find, is dated today, correct? You gave it
That's
to me,
correct.
Morgan, it's over there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it.
I'll find it, but
yeah,
it's
so
dated
we-
today, correct?
Yes, so unfortunately, we just received the memo today, so you guys just received it tonight at the meeting. I did want to say the first 4 comments are not really applicable because I think Joe did not receive like the complete application package, so he was missing some of the elevations, et cetera. And I have to remind you, Michael, to anything that Joe should receive a full application package.
Yes.
So, and we may change our, right now I ask applicants to get things directly to our engineer, but I think we're going to change that policy so that I can see what's being forwarded and I'll just forward them. But, so the first 4 comments don't apply, and then there are quite a few other ones here though, and I know you're just seeing it for the first time tonight, so I don't know if you want to, take some time to
One
look over it.
concern I have is just the mention of Crawford Street. I know a number of, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we dealt with a subdivision of properties in the, forgetting the name of the street, it's an adjacent street, and.
Deer Park, Deerfield, Deer something. Yeah, it was right around there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And at the time, there was a major concern, and again, it was in the wake of a number of very heavy storms that we had had in the previous few years, which we've been spared these past several years. But I recall at the time that there was a citation to a Crawford Street drainage report that indicated that this was a particular, I wouldn't call it a floodplain, but it was a particular area of concern when it came to stormwater management. And I just leafing through the Coward Sessions report, I don't see any reference to it, to that Crawford Street
Well, there was
study?
there was a Crawford Street drainage study, but that was dealing with very specific properties, and
Okay.
a very particular portion of Crawford Street.
But was that particular portion, would it encompass an area that might be affected or that would affect this building? That's where I'm going with this.
Okay, yeah, I don't. we'd
Is there
have to
any
go back
overlap
and-
there? Because we have had, in the past, I'd say the past 5 years, we've been pretty fortunate, that we haven't had these really heavy storms. But back, I think 2011, 2012, 2013, we had a number of what would be classified as 50-year storms within rapid succession. I think we had 4 or 5 of them within about 2.5 years. And again, it was at that time that we were dealing with a subdivision on Deerfield and a very well-organized group of local residents who really had concerns in particular about the development and its impact on stormwater management. And I remember the citation to this Crawford Street, and I remember thinking at the time, well, Crawford Street's a few blocks away. They're not so directly impacted. Crawford Street is right here, and I don't know whether, as Margaret said, we're dealing with a different section of Crawford Street that may not be, but.
Well, and that's why I do emphasize we're taking in the runoff from the entire square footage of impervious area and 100% infiltration. So all that water is completely being taken offline, whereas before, even though it was grass, you did have a portion of that, whether it's 70%, 50%, was running off the property. So there is a substantial reduction of runoff coming from the property with the development.
I think, Phil, what an opinion was at that time was that there was a soil strata, such that you had a rather impervious topsoil strata, which could get very muddy very, very fast, but yet underneath that was something that drained. And so if you tested where the drywall probably goes, it drained. And so that was one of the comments. And I think the long study had something to do with just taking water from way uphill and getting it downhill and through the sewers and not really addressing the soil of the sites.
Sure. So when you do tests, percolation tests, you do a number of them on the site?
Yes, we actually performed 3.
And could you point out where they were taken?
We had one in this area, one in the rear corner, and one up front.
Where the tanks are right in the front, right?
The tanks are the one, followed the one in the front.
So we have to do the public hearing. Let me just open the public hearing. So I make a motion to open the public hearing on this application, 1905 2 York Place.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments? No. So I think we're going to ask that you pick up some of the comments that were put forth today by our consultant, redo the plans and come back to us. Okay. Once we're sure that he's seen the plans for one last time, he's reviewed them, he gives the final okay, and we'll continue. So I think considering that the comments that are going to go forward are mainly going to be limited to those type of issues, I'm going to close the public hearing since there doesn't seem to be any interest.
Yeah.
Okay with that, Mr.
Yeah,
Novak?
I will second that.
So I make a motion to close the public hearing on this application, 1905 2 York.
Second.
Well done. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. So I think you got the gist of what I said.
And if you could, even whether it's mentioned in any of these papers or not, if you could get a hold of, and maybe Margaret can help you with
Yeah,
this.
I'll coordinate. I mean,
It may be much about nothing, I mean.
I don't think
but
it relates, but it's absolutely appropriate to look at it, and don't take my word for that.
Yeah, I just want you to look at it, and I want
Judge.
Joe Tremelli to look at it as well, and just provide me with a certain level of assurance that there isn't going to be a problem that was previously identified.
I think, and again, I think that had more to do with the capacity of existing storm drains, and this is an issue where somebody's putting them into dry wells. But that's a very valid point. We'll get a copy of the report.
And it looks like you've done a very thorough job, so, but we just want to be comprehensive
I think
here.
Mr. Pulaski probably had it right.
I think so, that was very good.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
He studies these things in the middle of the night, he gets up and he reads about soils and.
We don't want to know what you do in the middle of the night.
I never got that.
Could I just,
So I was right.
think for the applicant,
Guys.
For the applicant, I just want to clarify, because in this case, you're not approving this with a condition. You're saying because of the number of comments,
Yeah.
you'd like them to come back next month?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Understood?
Not a problem.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month. Next application is
23rd.
190814 Interlaken.
I think so.
You remember the project.
Good evening again. My name is John Yanacito. I'm an architect, and I'm representing Mr. and Mrs. Costantino, the owners of the subject property. We are proposing the construction of a new single-family residence at 14 Interlaken Drive. So here is the site plan showing the location of the new residence, a new two-car garage, a covered porch along the front and wrapping around the side, and then a new pergola at the rear over the proposed patio. Just quickly go through the plans. Here's the first floor plan. So the covered porch along the front and the side here, double height entrance, foyer, dining room on one side, and study office area on the other. And then at the back will be an open room containing kitchen, dining area, and family room. And then behind the garage, a new mudroom and an open porch to the side of the house. And here's the front of the patio. Second floor. Two-story high entry foyer, master bedroom suite on one side, and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths on the other. front elevation, two-car garage, open porch, two-story framed residence. Streetscape drawing showing the existing and proposed street facades. Here are photographs of the existing residence and the two adjacent properties. Street facade of the existing house in relation to the adjacent properties, and a street facade of the new residence in relation to the neighboring properties. The scale and the height are in keeping with the neighboring properties, and will have no adverse effect in the neighborhood. Drainage plan, which was submitted to the town's consultant. And I have Mike Stein here from Hudson Engineering, who can also give us a little more information on this as soon as I wrap up with the other stuff. We've also submitted a landscape plan, which was done by Dan Sherman, and it was presented to the Architecture Review Board. There were no comments about the landscaping around the house, but there were some comments about some existing trees in the right-of-way, which I will go through in a second. Here is a rendering of the front of the house showing the proposed materials. The wall surfaces will be a hardy plank siding with a pearl gray finish. The stone veneer at the front door and the base of the garage and base of the porch will be a granite with mixed beige and gray finish. The windows will be vinyl clad in a white finish. The trim boards will be painted AZAC in a white finish. Columns will be painted AZAC in a white finish. The gutters and leaders will be aluminum in a white finish. The front entrance door will be fiberglass in a black finish. And the overhead doors will be fiberglass in a white finish. The application was presented to the Architecture Review Board on April 4th. And they had two recommendations. One was to add, to show the exterior light fixtures on the elevations, and we did that. Look at the elevations that were submitted. The light fixtures were shown here at the rear entry doors, and also at the front entrance door on either side of the garage, and at the side entrance door at the mudroom. The second comment was to review alternate locations for a curb cut and for the drywall system to try to save the two red oaks that were in the right of way. So we did meet with the highway department at the site. The owners also hired an arborist to examine the trees. The arborist determined that the trees were not healthy, so they will be removed. We spoke to Hector at the highway department about it, and he agreed that the trees can be removed at the owner's expense, and that he is requiring us to plant 2 new red oaks within the right-of-way.
Did the arborist look at the second tree or only the one tree?
He only looked at the one tree.
Okay.
We can have him examine the second tree. I mean, really, the tree that's in the middle of the driveway was the main.
That was just one. Can you put it back up there and point out the 2 trees you're talking about on the site plan, please?
These are, this is a big issue for me, because the character of that neighborhood really is, and I often walk down that street. I live right over here, but I'll go for a walk, and I've commented before to my wife, who I often walk with, that one of the real beautiful things about that street is that big canopy of tall oak trees. And if there is any doubt at all about the health of those trees, that I do not want to see those trees come down. I don't know. Certainly, if the town, and these are on the right of way, subscribes to the belief that the trees are a health hazard, that they're in such a state that they cannot be salvaged, that they ought to be taken down right now, that's one thing. But if there's any way to salvage those trees, I think it's a great loss when you lose a tree of that age, and I think it detracts from the entire neighborhood when you do something like that.
Yeah, and
I need to be really, really convinced, because I think that's an integral part of that
The
neighborhood.
arborist was out there. When you look at those two trees that are in front of this house, at about 5 feet off the ground, they split into 3 or 4 different trunks. So the main concern was where the trunks split. So the arborist did probe in there, and the probe went in pretty deep. And he said that there was a lot of rot inside that trunk.
That's
So
pretty.
his concern was that the tree would continue to split and would fall.
That's tree number 1, right?
The tree right here.
Yeah, that's one of the 2 trees that he made that comment about.
He also visually, he didn't probe the second tree, but he said the second tree was probably in worse shape than the first.
See,
I think Hector also agreed to that.
Well, I spoke to the highway superintendent today, and I do think we need some more definitive information from our own highway superintendent and from the town's arborist. In my speaking to the highway superintendent, it appeared to me, but it was hard to have him articulate this as well as I would have liked him to. With the first tree, because of the report the applicant's arborist prepared, and then I believe the town's arborist looked at that tree, but we haven't gotten a report from him yet, that one appeared to be in decay. And you know, what the highway superintendent said to me, if no one was proposing to build a home on that property, we would monitor the tree. We wouldn't take it down immediately, but it would be something that would be monitored, and we would most likely would need to take it down sooner rather than later. The second tree, my impression from the highway superintendent was, because of the age of the tree and the location of the tree, when you consider that in relationship to the proposed Cultec chambers, the trenching that might have to be done for utilities, construction vehicles on a small site, that it's very hard to protect and save a tree. You know, usually tree protection is out to the drip line of a tree, which would take up half the property probably. So I think although he was not, you know, again, he reiterated to me that if there was no construction going on, he would monitor those trees carefully. But he was just concerned, I think the first tree in the driveway, you know, he conceded probably has some issues. The second tree, I don't think he had confirmation from the town's arborist with regard to the condition of the tree, but he just felt sort of regardless, any kind of construction activities would likely put it over the edge. But I don't know, you have a number of other engineering questions you may want to consider that you may want to ask to have a little more of a definitive comment from the highway department.
Yes.
Yeah, we tried to get a letter from the arborist. He sent us all of this information in an email, so we tried to get a letter from him today on his letterhead, but.
And
Which
the email
arborist?
was the email was forwarded to the.
No. Is that the town arborist you're speaking of?
No, this
That's
is
the
the arborist that
applicant's
was hired
arborist.
by the.
Yeah.
I think Hector did bring out an arborist.
Hector wrote, and Hector sent an email.
Right, I
Yeah,
have
we
it
have
here.
that.
That's tree number 1, right?
No, and Hector also, or the highway superintendent provided an email this afternoon, which is included in your packages, where he says, based on the location of the new driveway, garage, and stormwater system, the removal of the 2 town-owned red oak trees is needed in order to construct the proposed new home. Therefore, the property owner may remove the 2 oak trees.
But that's not an observation on the condition of the tree.
That's correct. So that's where I think you might need a little more clarification
So
from him.
so can we get our town arborist to opine on both of them?
Yes.
In writing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I think we need to do. So this gentleman wants to talk about stormwater. And I think we'll let him do that, and then we'll move on. You got to, you're getting paid. Go ahead.
So this is Mike's plan for this building.
So we, again, same as the other site, we had performed percolation deep hole testing on the site. 1 test hole in the rear, 1 test hole in the front. The test hole in the rear, similar to what you were discussing before about Crawford, there was basically a clay layer which was holding the groundwater in. So at 36 inches below grade, we encountered groundwater. No, I'm just, you were speaking before on 2 York about the Crawford drainage report and about the infiltration that the water was being held in the upper layers.
But is it the same geotechnical strata, clay?
No, but, well, there's, from what we saw, there's basically, there's clay on the site. And it seems that there's probably a clay lens in the rear of the property that's not letting it fully drain through.
I see.
So in the rear of the property, we encountered groundwater at 36 inches. In the front of the property, we went 100 inches without encountering groundwater.
Oh, that's good. All the
So,
Coltex in the front.
with that said, we had percolation tests run both in the front and the rear, and because we had a slow percolation rate of ½ inch per hour, we made a determination that we'd size the system for a 100-year storm, just to add a factor of safety to it.
Is that why the system is so large? It looks large on the plan.
Yeah.
That's basically exactly it, because we had a slow percolation rate, and that's what dictates.
But it's at the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going with a depth, it's a different type of system, it's not a Coltex system, it's more like a milk crate. These crates all get stacked up and basically installed along each other.
Oh, they're shallow at the front, is that right? Because,
I believe the units we're using are 30 inches high. It's just because it's such a slow perk rate, we need to.
yeah, the good rate was in the back, you said, I think?
No, but
At all?
½ inch per hour, both in the front and the rear,
Good.
except for we had high groundwater in the rear, no problem with groundwater in the front.
Okay.
And you also received a review memo from Joe Tremelli this afternoon, so you're seeing it for the first time this evening, or I gave it
Right,
to you
you-
prior to the meeting.
Took care of what I was just about to say.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, on this, it's kind of, one
Thank
thing
you.
I'd like to say too, again, the first 4 comments are not really relevant because we received some information that the applicant hadn't forwarded to the engineer, but the remaining comments are all relevant.
Okay.
Again, everything is addressable, and we have no concerns.
Okay, so we're going to do the
So we're-
same thing.
We'll be working on this in time for the submission for the next meeting.
That's perfect, thank you. Let's do the public hearing, and so, any more comments on site plan or architecture?
Yeah,
or-
I have, Joe?
Oops.
I have a question for you.
Sorry.
On the landscape plan, on your landscape plan, L1.
I know nothing about landscape.
That doesn't, the line of trees on the left side of that plan, in my understanding of the drawings, those trees are on the other side of your property line.
Yeah, it looks like they are, yes. If these are new trees, then they need to be moved to this side of the property line. I guess they're new trees.
Oh.
There's a wooden fence on the left.
I know there's a wooden fence, but that wooden fence, according to the survey, appears to be over a couple of feet from what the survey is saying is the property line. If I'm reading it right, maybe I'm not. But I got confused and I wrote down the question.
Yeah, it looks like you are, and I hadn't noticed that before. But it's a little deceiving because of where the fence location is.
Right.
I think the location of the fence and the trees, oh, that's not even on the corner, so is that on?
The fence is on the adjacent property.
Oh, it's on the adjacent property, okay.
I think when you put those trees in, you should have them on this side of the property line.
All right.
If
Yeah,
they're new-
have them on his property, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll just be a space between the trees and the fence. The fence is not there.
Maybe the neighbor should have consulted me first and we should
Well,
place
this
it
is
over
a
there.
brand new survey, so this would be very accurate, I would think.
How did you see that, looking at this?
Well, but just because of the way it seems to swing in. It seems to swing in here. It doesn't make sense.
Another
It would
thing
be
would be
straight.
to get permission from the neighbors to do that.
And then they don't go and they don't label the lot.
Have it move, Dan, move them over.
Say that that's, but usually
Okay.
they label it.
Yeah. Well, you move it over a foot.
Yes.
Yeah, so put the bushes on their property.
I had a question on the width of the curb cut. Is that, okay, you have 20 feet, is, 20 feet,
20 feet is the maximum width of the driveway, 22 feet is the maximum width of the curb cut.
Okay, I had those numbers wrong. All right, I think that's my questions.
So, let us just do, I think we're done with the site plan, right? We got you, okay. So I make a motion to open the public hearing on this application, 190814 Interlaken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Same motion, close the public hearing on the same application, 190814 Interlaken.
Second.
And, right, and same as last, if you would update everything per,
You gotta do the all in favor.
right, and come back and we'll do this again for both applications.
Jim, you seconded we seconded it, but you didn't.
Oh, I didn't close it?
Yeah, you didn't take a vote on everyone.
Oh, all in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Good.
So we're coming back with additional information on drainage
And
and
trees.
additional information on the trees. As far as the house, are there any comments on, do we need to do anything further with the house?
The only thing I would urge you to consider that if somehow you could do something either with the water infiltration or even with any design on the house that would somehow save a tree, or affect the decision-making on the tree in a positive way, consider it, that's all.
Yeah, and I think-
Maybe they're beyond saving, but I really think that it would be a significant loss for that neighborhood to lose 2 trees of that vintage. And, you know, I know you can plant new ones, but they don't grow, that's 100-year, those are 100-year-old trees.
Correct,
Yeah.
and I agree. I mean, it would be great to save the trees. The issue here is that we tried to get the dry wells to work at the back of the building. They don't work. They're just not going to work at the back of the building. So we had to put them in the front. The dry wells are going to significantly impact that tree on that one side. Like I said to the ARB, if the town is willing to waive the drainage issue here, we're happy to do it. You know, I looked at it with Hector to try to tie into the sewers out in the street, and he was willing to have us put a trench to a sewer instead of putting dry wells on the property, but we couldn't find a sewer anywhere near this property. So there really is no other place to put dry wells on this property except for that front, and we're happy to keep that one tree, but the dry wells will definitely impact it during construction and after construction. The one that's in the driveway, I mean, we tried looking at flipping the house, the other tree's right in the middle of the driveway. We can't shift any further over to the side yard because we would need variances. So, I mean, we did try to save the trees. Now, when we had the arborist come out and he told us that the trees are not in great shape, you know, I mean, the town's gonna have to factor that in also. I mean, we're gonna leave trees that may die in 2 years and try to work around all these trees to try to save them for 2 more years. If we can, we'll try it. I mean, we can.
15 years, maybe, 20 years.
We can do the driveway around the tree and have an odd driveway curb cut into the house.
Okay. All I'm saying is try to keep an open mind, because, you know, it may sound silly up here that I'm making such a fuss about a couple of trees, but I really admire that about that particular neighborhood. I've commented for years, you know, in going through that neighborhood, how beautiful that canopy of trees is and how it makes the entire neighborhood. And in a way that I see in Eastchester, people are cutting down trees left and right. I think it's ridiculous, because then everyone's house looks bare in front. And it's not good for the environment. It's a whole host of problems that you create when you do that. But in this particular area, it's integral to the character of the neighborhood, I believe.
And we can leave the one tree on one side, and I think if you look at the landscape plan, he did leave that one tree in place.
But again, I think you
Yeah.
need to look at the town's
I understand.
arborist report.
Yeah.
And, you know,
It may not be possible. If it's not
We'll see,
possible,
yeah,
like-
well, let's see what the arborist says, and then we can go from there.
If we could keep the tree, we'd like them to keep the tree.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next application. Next application is 190622 Hunter Drive.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Leonard Brandis, Brandis Architects. I'm here representing Mr. and Mrs. Trolio for an alteration that they'd like to do to their home. The existing home is a split house, and it's very obviously a split design from the 60s, and they really just want to change it, which the neighborhood itself is going through a lot of changes right now. People want to get more old-style homes, instead of the more modernistic homes with the short windows. We had issues in the bedrooms there. The windows are very short. You can't get much light into those areas. So we're trying to redesign this house and break it up into a different format. Also right now, the living room area is dealing with interior of the living room's down at 8 feet and goes up to like 16 feet. It's a very sloped, very uncomfortable space to be in. So by creating a new design for the house, we're trying to create a enclosed porch in the front. So it's only adding the existing front porch is there, the front section here. We're just adding the small section here, about a little less than 100 square feet of porch in the front, covering it, changing all the roof lines, adding a lot of details to the house, which it didn't have before. I do have photographs of the house itself. So you have the photographs of the house. The deck is all existing. There's nothing we're doing with the deck itself. We're just changing basically the exterior of the house. The stonework, we're getting rid of the brick that goes way up here now. We're going to bring that down below the window. And using the stone facing, we're going to be using the vinyl siding, which is the heavy-duty siding over here. And I couldn't get the color from the manufacturer just yet, but that's the color we're using for the areas on top. I'll bring that back to you. So where we're using on top here, these little curves. So we're going with a different color. So we have multicolor and working with the roof itself over there to bring everything together, carrying the colors, bringing in the greens and the stone and everything into one format. Elevation-wise, put that out. The comments that we had from the Architecture Review Board were two, basically. One is that I had a little extra trim that was in the middle up here on top of these archways, and they wanted those removed. They wanted it a little simpler, so we took that out. And also that on the rendering that you now see, it was missing the shutters, and we added the shutters onto the rendering. Other than that, they really didn't have many comments in terms of that. And I'm up for comments. It's been a long night for you guys.
It's an entirely new house.
It's to make it a new house and to make it more presentable on the street is what they're looking for. They've already done a lot of work on the inside of the house, and they've changed all the trim and moldings on the interior of the house before. They just want to bring the inside of the house to the outside now.
Is any of the existing house being?
Excuse me?
Is any of the existing still remaining, or like any of the walls, or?
The only wall we're opening up is in the living room, the kitchen to the dining room. Do I have that plan here? Let me find that plan. I know it's here somewhere. Last place to look. The only wall that we're opening up is over here, opening up the kitchen and the dining room together. Other than that, we're just raising these walls, so we'll have 10-foot ceilings, a flat 10-foot ceiling in the entryway and the living room, the dining room as well. We're then going to have a cathedral ceiling coming on the entry so that it lines up with the entry to the half stair that's coming over here. So that area lines up. I can show that a little better in terms of the section. So the living room area and the dining area is going to now have a 10-foot ceiling straight, and then the entryway is going to have this coffered ceiling that's raised up above beyond.
Great.
Other than that, we're not changing anything on the interior of the house. It still has the same bedrooms. We are increasing the windows. You know, it's the same width of the windows. We're just bringing them down lower. And now they'll also meet the safety codes. They're all going to be egress windows in today's code, which it doesn't meet today.
Sure.
And your siding is all vinyl?
It's all vinyl siding. I'll pass that around because it's not the standard vinyl. It's a little bit heavier than usual.
What's heavy-duty vinyl? That's heavy-duty vinyl. Oh, I see. They're like
The trim that we're using is AZAC trim, so that it does get a 5/4 by 4 and a 5/4 by 6 trim around the windows and the sides, so it will not look like vinyl siding with the little thin corner beads that they normally come with.
Right.
This will look like a shingled house.
looks
I
very
think you're
nice.
going to have to actually go up there and tap on it to see whether it's real or not.
Yeah, it looks like shakes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just do the public hearing then. I make a motion to open the public hearing on application 1906, 22 Hunter.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the public hearing on the same application, 1906, 22 Hunter Drive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any change in impervious? I didn't look.
Excuse me.
Is there any change in impervious such that you need to put in stormwater, or?
We're opening up, we're adding a little less than 100 square feet of impervious surface.
Okay.
That's where the porch is, right?
That's from the covered porch. I mean, most of this is along right now, the roof is actually covering to here right now, but we're just adding that little porch area. It's less than 100 square feet, so usually does not require additional.
Is that the case, less than 100?
Yeah, actually, I think it's 50 square feet, but that's always evaluated as part of the building permit review process, so.
Okay, good, not me. Okay, we're getting then, so I don't have any other comments. So I make a motion to approve this application, 22 Hunter Drive, application 1906.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great,
Thank you very
and
much.
Thank you for your speedy presentation. And grab your shakes too before you go, please. The next application is, thank you. The next application is, 1907 971 California.
Here, take care. Okay, good evening again. My name is John Yanacito. I'm an architect, and I'm representing Mr. and Mrs. Hines, the owners of the subject property. We are proposing additions and alterations to the existing single-family residence located at 971 California Road. Let's go over. So the proposed scope of work will include the construction of a covered porch and a second-story dormer at the front of the existing residence, which is highlighted here, a two-story addition, and a concrete deck at the rear of the property. We're also proposing interior alterations, first and second floor, and site alterations including new walkways, widening of the existing driveway, and a new patio or expansion of the existing patio at the rear of the property. Quickly. So the main part of work on the first floor is that the living space here, we're gonna remove many of the walls and create one big open family room, kitchen area, and this would be the new covered porch. The second story here is just a reorganization of the existing bedrooms, and then the second floor, same thing, is an addition at the rear and reorganization of the existing bedrooms on the second floor. Here are the exterior elevations, the existing and proposed elevations. So basically on the front, it's really just the front porch and the new dormer, and then reconfiguration of the windows over the garage. The side elevation, reworking the roof here, and then this is the addition beyond. And then the rear is where the bulk of the addition is, so reconfiguration of the roof here and the two-story addition with sliding doors from the basement area. Here is a rendering of the proposed front facade. So we're going to redo all the siding on the house. The new siding will be hardy plank siding in a slate gray finish. The new roof shingles will be asphalt in a charcoal finish. The trim boards will all be AZAC painted white. The stone veneer at the porch is existing, and we will match existing. We'll just rework the stone and match existing. The front door will be fiberglass in a white finish. The overhead door will be white and fiberglass. That's basically it. I have samples of the hardy plank and the shingles, roof shingles, if you want to see them in stone.
Sure, since you brought them, we'll take a look. Oh, thank you.
Shingle, the stone, the siding, and the AZAC. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, it's very nice.
The project was presented to the ARB on April 4th, and there was only one comment to show the lighting on the exterior and on the elevation.
That seems to be their comment this month.
So there's some lights here at this door, at every door, so every door has a light fixture.
Do you not show them previously on other jobs, and you've just been getting away with it, or?
Well, sometimes I remember to put them on, sometimes I don't.
And
I mean, if it doesn't go in front of the ARB, we never really show. We show it on the electrical plan, but we don't show it.
Because they're required at exits anyway. But I don't think they actually made it a condition. They just always ask you,
Yeah, they always
you know,
ask,
but
so-
they didn't really say you had to
Just
do
see
it.
it. I'm just giving you a hard time. So let me do the public hearing. I make a motion to open the public hearing on this application, 1907, 971 California.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Close the public hearing on 1907, 971 California Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can't see anything more to say, other than it looks good, again. Another John Yanacito creation in the town of Eastchester.
Couple of comments I have is, I think this is the third application this, tonight that porches are being added. Is there a sale going on
I think
porches?
it's a trend now, because I've
It
done
is.
a
It
few
seems to
other
be,
ones
yeah.
that have done porches.
See,
so-
that I'm picking up on that, I do look at.
But it actually brings the scale of the house down, so it's good. So it doesn't get too full.
And you can sit on your porch and look at your big trees.
Right, that's right. Or small new ones.
In reviewing the drawings, there were a couple of things I was picking up. You can see how you're developing the basement. You have the sliding doors in the back. The topo, the property seems to be sloping from the road back. Then as you get to those sliding doors, it also seems to come down this way. And my only recommendation is to make sure your drainage is positive, that you don't have anything backing up into your, if you have a really heavy rain where it's kind of like floats on the grass.
We are going to put drains in the new patio, which is going to be right outside this door.
Oh, okay.
And then we do have 4 new dry wells going in this back corner.
Yes.
So the new levers and the new linear drains for the patio.
The other observation, and I know you'll do this expertly, is you're doing a decking on top of a basement roof.
Yeah, that's.
So you want to get that right.
We want to, yeah, the client, that's what the client wanted. Originally, we
No,
had
it's-
an open deck under there, but he wanted it.
It makes sense, it makes sense, it's just, you just don't want to have to pick that decking up to repair your roof after, so. Yeah, I don't see any details, but I know that you know how to do them, and that would be the only comment.
Yeah, we didn't get to the details yet.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Thank you for your comments. We approving it? No. If there's no more comments, then we'll approve this, so.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve this application 1907971 California Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you,
3 down.
and I'm done for tonight.
We gave you some homework, though, so. Yeah. Yeah, I know. We're good.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice
You're welcome, grab your stuff.
All right, John.
Please. Then the next and last application, you're welcome, have a good evening, is 1902247 Main Street. This is not a public hearing, this is just a preliminary, show it to the planning board type thing.
How you doing? My name is Angelo Agavino. I'm here to present to you a 15-family building that I would like to build on 249 Main Street. I'm proposing 9 one-bedrooms and 6 two-bedrooms. We have I'm proposing parking spots inside. We have 14 inside, and I believe we have 12 outside. Yes, 12 outside. We meet our parking requirement for the structure. I'll kind of walk you through the plan. I'll get back to the basement. So this is our first floor. We walk into the lobby. We have a little meeting room. Then you have the stairs going up, elevator. We have a trash room. We have steps here. Handicap. That's about it for the first floor. Then we have obviously our parking spots. I have 3 levels of apartments, and every floor is mirrored. So I have 2 bedrooms on each floor, and 3 one-bedrooms on each floor. This is the front of the structure. Some of the apartments have balconies, some have Juliet balconies. Some, I believe that we did, some you could actually step out on. We step out? Back to here. Yes. So the front, Tony, that's the front too, right? Yeah. So the front 2 you could actually step out on. The other ones are just going to be Juliet balconies. I'm proposing brick, stucco, and hardy. This is going to be, I think, some kind of like precast stone right here in the middle here to deal with the steel to hold the, to kind of case it in, make it a nice touch. This is the back of the building. Right? Yes. Sorry.
What is that? Oh, yeah.
This is the side elevation. As you can see, the balconies that I was talking about before. The building is going to be overhang a bit over here, so cars could pass through with parking. And this is the survey. So this is just a preliminary drawing. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on what we have here in front of you. I didn't send out any mailing to anybody yet. I wanted to get your opinion first to see what you guys thought of everything. And
Sure, I mean, we appreciate you coming in front of us and giving us a chance to look at it.
Angela, you didn't go over the cellar plan.
I'm sorry.
You didn't go over the cellar plan.
Actually, get back to that. In the cellar, I have a trash room, so we could, we're gonna do some type of a refrigeration system down there, so I can keep the trash in the building. I don't have it outside, like all these, these other buildings. I don't wanna have.
Stuff on the street.
What I wanna do here is I wanna do some type of high-end, nice, I don't want it to be just thrown up and have a couple apartments. So that's what that's why I took the time out. We're gonna do a trash room down here. I have a lot of storage down here for the tenants that are in there. I have a gym. We have some light for the gym, a little window well there. And that's about it.
The pavers in your driveway, are they just pavers, or they absorb water, or is that, usually you see asphalt, you've gone...
They're meant to absorb water, but I'm gonna let you kind of go into that.
Well, you brought it in front of us, we're asking questions.
Good evening, Michael Stein, President of Hudson Engineering. We're the engineers with record for the project. So again, one of the first things we do when we start off with the project, we're doing test holes, deep and percolation test holes to figure out where groundwater and ledge rock are and see what the soils are like. So in the back of the property, we had about 10 feet before we hit ledge rock. That sounds great, but then add into the factor that we're cutting about 5 feet. So we're left with about 5 feet. However, we had fantastic percolation rates. So we use a different type of system here where it's only about 6 inches high, but it's because of it's a low profile and we have really good percolation rates. We spread the system throughout. We're also in conversations about using pervious pavement for the project, so that way we have a collection system that would bring it all the way to the back and away from the foundations.
Now, Angela, does as nice as these pavers are that absorb water, do they work well for winter and for clearing snow, or is it?
I have pavers on my. I can only speak with experience. I mean, I don't live in a building that has pavers, but at my driveway they hold up very well. And actually, I personally think it's better than blacktop, because when blacktop gets damaged, you have to rip it all out, or you can't. Do patches, or with pavers, pick it up, put a little stone dust, put it back, and
I like the pavers. They give us a nice look, and I think it's a nice environmental item. I just
it's a bigger cost for us.
In the east, we can clear snow.
Yeah, nice. The guys come and plow. Thank God, I never had any problems. But it's a bigger cost for us to put them there.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a great look for the project.
I think
and
it
for
is.
the area. That area right now where the building sits now was used for stone yards, truck yards, and I really think that this project is going to help out the neighborhood and bring some more money into the area.
I think it will. Now, when I walked the site, I noticed that from the front, you've got a wall, so the grade is is high. You go around the back of the property, you're higher than the back of the property. It would seem to me that you're going to want to take that site
Yeah.
down to sidewalk level.
We're going to be basic. Mike, you want to?
Yep. So right around the sidewalk area on the northern side, we're at elevation 92. So you're actually going into the site around here is around 91.5. To the rear of the property is 90. As you come around this side of the property, you come to the curb where it's elevation 88.
Right.
So the site is being cut down. And that's why I say in the back, while we did get 120 inches to ledge rock, we're cutting 5 feet in the rear of the property.
Have you thought about how you're addressing the roof? Are you going to have any occupancy on the roof for people to go up there?
I've been
or-
tossing the idea back and forth because I think the units that I'm going to be using for air conditioning, and I want to use these efficiency units that I forgot the proper name for them. It's an air conditioning system that just flips backwards.
Okay.
And they need these units on the roof, so maybe I want to do some type of seating area up there. I think that it would be nice, but it would be small, probably just to the front, and I would have the air conditioning units in the back. I would have to kind of maybe do a little bit of a screening up there.
You thought about any planting up there, pots or whatever, that's a popular thing
If I do
nowadays
something
with-
up there,
with some of
then
these
I would
roofs.
definitely, this is what I want to do here is, high-end building, and I would love to do anything that you guys suggest up there, or however you want.
I'm just asking questions, I'm looking at the drawings, and
Yeah, I mean,
and there's a certain amount of
100%
information.
I would
and
love
then
to.
There's for your delivery vehicles, where are you bringing your delivery vehicles in, and how are they going to make sure that we don't get caught underneath the overhang? Because that overhang is what, 9'3" or whatever, clearance?
Can I? Yeah, my name is Antonio Freda.
Yep.
All right, the overhang, yeah, let me put the- right here. Okay, this one.
The site plan's going to take this up.
So basically, the circulation for vehicles goes past the overhang. It doesn't necessarily go under the overhang. And you do have that portion of the site lowered, and the overhang is approximately 9 foot. I don't have it in front of me here, but over, yeah, right there, 9'8". But we're not using it for vehicle circulation, because the overhang stops here and circulation starts beyond that. So we have the minimum 10-foot wide circulation area going around, and it doesn't go underneath the overhang.
All right, I can see that. You're
It's
right,
basically, the overhang is basically for backing up.
You're right, you're right, you're right.
And I don't think that you're gonna have a vehicle there more than 9 feet or 8 feet high.
Yeah, but I don't know if delivery trucks are going to pull in, right?
Well, if they pull in, I don't
I don't
believe,
think they should pull in, but that's up to
If-
you, right?
okay, so let's say that there's someone was moving into the building.
Hey,
You would probably have a smaller, they would have to use a smaller vehicle to go all the way around, or they just bring it up to a certain point and back up.
It's just an observation Robert had of how you operate it is up to you. So, but once, just where does snow go, right, when you plow?
Okay, so one of the proposals that we had, and I'm not sure whether that's in,
I mean, do you have,
was to, huh? Go ahead.
So we're either gonna truck the snow out, or maybe depending on cost, we were looking at a heated, a snow melt system.
That's going to cost a fortune.
Yeah, so if it's feasible, I'm gonna get quotes on it, but if not, then we're gonna be trucking the snow out of here.
But I think we'll be looking at questions like that, and when you have deliveries, both the short deliveries like UPS and the long deliveries like people moving in, moving out, a truck will have to pull over a bit and still be able to pass traffic around.
There is, there's no parking in front of the building now. I don't know, when you stepped out there to go see there is, space. I don't know if it's, I would have to, get someone to measure it out, but, I could definitely park my car here and have traffic pass through without crossing the yellow line.
I'm aware of that, I'm aware of that, yeah.
Okay. So the next step is, I imagine, to actually bring this as an application, see if it meets requirements, variances, all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
I think the applicant was pretty careful about zoning compliance issues, but I know Mr. King hasn't had a chance to look it over thoroughly. And one thing I wanted to mention that I'm just looking at right now, when we had met with you quite a few months ago to discuss this, the perimeter landscaping, I don't know if you remember that, so.
I did.
Okay, so there are a couple of next steps. One, I think there just needs to be a little more staff review with regard to zoning compliance issues. And then I'll also work with the applicant with regard to seeker issues and what items they might need to address in a little bit more detail. Definitely, we need to get the Eastchester Fire Department to review it.
Yep.
Look at traffic and parking impacts in the area, although this is one application that appears to comply with the parking requirements, which is a good thing. And I'm not sure if there are any other, does this require health department approval, or are there any other seeker-involved agencies as far as you know?
No,
I don't think there
it
are.
should require health department approval.
Yeah, okay. So you don't need to declare your intent to be lead agency, because unless there's variances required, then you're the only involved agency.
Margaret, me and Tony were actually looking at your code, that we could speak about this later, but I just, we have less than 14 parking spots outside. So I think the way your code reads, that there has to be landscaping all the way around. We did it as much as we can, and I'll be willing to, do more where I can. But most of the parking spots are inside.
Okay, so we just need to evaluate that.
Yeah, just,
So I think the next steps are basically to have town staff work with the applicant with regard to what additional materials they may need to get to you the next time that they come. But it sounds like so far your comments have been fairly positive and with some.
We had an application, it was the same thing, it was a preliminary review about 3 years ago, let's
so
say.
what they were, I scaled down a whole lot. So with this property, what I can build here, I think I can, build commercial space below and do residential space above it. The building, I saw the plans of that. The building went this way. It had parking underneath
Yeah,
the
the parking
building.
it just looked.
Yeah, so when we took a look at this project, we wanted to scale down, do something. There's a terrible amount of empty commercial space there. This property definitely doesn't need any commercial space, and I feel that that commercial space was really hindering this project with parking. We for in Eastchester code,
Yeah.
is you require for every 150 square feet, I think it is, you need 2 parking spots. So I think there was like 25 spots for commercial, but that's why we went into this direction.
Did the other application have that many spots, really?
Yeah, so
Yeah, okay,
if you did what they wanted to do, they wanted to basically make a parking garage in the whole property.
Right, and then put residences
And
on
then
top.
go underneath, drive a car in and out, and park spots underneath and on top.
I just remember it was like a steep grade down into the
Yeah.
subterranean
So the-
garage, and it just looked like an accident waiting to happen, trying to get back onto Main Street,
Yeah.
So the one concern, or the one aspect we'd like you to address, or I would like you, is this is a big mass that we're putting on the street there, on Main Street, that isn't there. It's a 43-foot tall building on a street that doesn't have anything that big, so.
Well, you're not too
Actually-
far, actually.
I mean,
You're-
that's
you're
next
pretty-
door, but
yeah.
I'd like to know how this compares to the adjacent building, so if you could show us somehow.
No, but
Streetscape.
did you guys get the pictures I took for you guys? So those are all surrounding properties. There's one house to the left of it, one or two. I'm not 100% sure, but majority of the area over there is buildings.
So could the architect show
Sure.
something to us, an elevation showing this building, buildings around, so we can understand
No problem.
So it's kind of a visual analysis, so, yeah.
right now? But if you could come back, just so we understand it.
No problem.
Any other comments,
No.
guys? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. I
thank you,
just wanted to come and
Yeah, it looks
your
like
opinion.
it'll be a nice
Thanks so much. I
addition to
appreciate
the
it.
neighborhood. Thank you.
When we come back, we'll have something a
Great.
lot more detailed. Thank you.
All right, have a nice evening. Take care, Mr. Yanacito. Are we all done here? Do you want to do your, approve any minutes, Margaret?
Sure, you have the February 28th minutes, and that's everybody but Phil.
So it's just February, right, so did you give comments on the ones that you still, even though you weren't here, you commented? And
Someone's
how did
gotta
get
keep
the
you guys
ones-
honest, right?
How did you get the ones that we didn't even get?
Oh, because they were already
They're
posted.
typos, a
They-
couple of
it's
minor
okay, yeah.
typos, that's all. Yeah, very minor.
Okay, so then, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of February, can we do it with the two of us? Yeah, of February 28, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I make a motion to close the Town of Eastchester Planning Board meeting of April 25th, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now,
Is Carrie still there?
so now if Phil edits the
There he
meeting,
is, yeah.
does he get to put his name on that he was present?
No, he's just like a consultant. He's like our,
Hey, 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 hey. I actually reviewed the minutes